Praise to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And peace to everyone that's here in the name of Jesus. Peace to everyone that's watching us on the internet. And as always, it's always good to stand before you on the Lord's Sabbath day, which is today, the day that he commanded us to keep throughout all generations. And as you can see, the title of the lesson, we're going to deal with these man's holidays, which is coming in a culmination right around December 25th, which is the big one. But I thought I'd put all of them in the lesson so we can have some understanding of exactly where all of this foolishness came from, because it didn't come from the Lord. Because the Lord laid out everything that he wanted us to hold as a celebration on his behalf, because it has a bigger meaning. It's not just coming together, eating and drinking and having a good time. We know that every feast day that the Lord established has a bigger picture. It points towards the future. It points toward the salvation of mankind. But we can see around this time, which we were all part of at one period or another, that these holidays that man has conjured up is just a headache. Because I was listening to a guy at work the other day, and he was just complaining about all the money he had to spend. And then he ended up forgetting to get something for somebody else. So now I got to work. I'm going to have to work this overtime this Saturday so I can make up, so I can give me some more money. So, I mean, it's just a headache. So, but we're going to deal with man's holidays, and we're going to show you who gave them to you, how the switch came about, and why you do the things that you used to do. Because right now we don't do that stuff. At least I hope y'all don't do it. But if you, only the Lord knows. So, but we're going to start this in 2 Timothy chapter 4. 2 Timothy chapter 4. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. 2 Timothy 4 and verse 1. Can I get that dictionary? 2 Timothy 4, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
I charge thee, therefore, before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing in his kingdom. So
here's something right here in this first verse, that the Lord is going to judge the living and the dead. That's what the quick means, living and the dead at his appearing. Okay, so nobody's being judged right now. You're going to get your reward when the Lord comes back. Verse 2, go ahead.
Preach the word. Be instant in season, out of season. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine.
So Paul said, preach the word, in season and out of season. That means 24/7, you're on your job preaching the word. Because we're going to, during these seasonal times, we have to up our game just like they up their game. Just like the Lord had those two witnesses during tribulation to counteract all this stuff the false prophet is doing during those 3.5 years, we have to preach this word in season. And when this Christmas season passes, it'll be out of their season, but we will still be in season. So we have to preach this word. Go ahead.
For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine.
So the time will come, and that time is right now, that nobody wants to hear the truth. Nobody wants to hear that Jesus was not born on December 25th. Nobody wants to hear that your mama is in the ground, not in heaven. That's sound doctrine. Sound doctrine is stuff that we can read out of this book. But what do they want? Go ahead.
But after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears.
So they want somebody to tell them something good. They don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear something that's false. Go ahead.
And they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables.
So they're going to turn away their ears from the truth, and they're going to be turned unto fables. Now we know what a fable is, but let's see what the dictionary says a fable is, because we really need to understand what this fable is. This is from the Webster's Dictionary. Let's read what fable is, and read what's in black right there.
Fable, falsehood.
Falsehood, right? People don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear something false. That's a fable. Go ahead.
lie.
A lie. They don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear a lie. That's a fable. Go ahead.
Fable, to tell fables, to talk or write about as if it true. Fabular.
Yeah, right there. Do we read that?
Mm-hmm.
Falsehood?
Yep.
A lie? Okay, that's all we need. So fable is a lie. It's falsehood. People don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear a lie. So they're going to turn away their ears from hearing the truth, and they're going to find somebody that's going to tell them a lie that sounds really good. Now let's go to Isaiah chapter 44. And all these holidays that man has conjured up, when we read the history of them, they all lies. All of them. Isaiah 44. Isaiah 44, we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Isaiah chapter 44 and verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
Yet now hear, O Jacob, my servant, and Israel, whom I have chosen. Thus saith the Lord that made thee, and formed thee from the womb, which will help thee. Fear not, O Jacob, my servant, and thou, Jeshurun, whom I have chosen. For I will pour water upon him that is thirsty, and floods upon the dry ground. I will pour my spirit upon thy seed, and my blessing upon thine offspring. And they shall spring up as among the grass, as willows by the watercourses. One shall say, I am the Lord's, and another shall call himself by the name of Jacob. And another shall subscribe with his hand unto the Lord, and surname himself by the name of Israel. Thus said the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I am the first, and I am the last, and beside me there is no God.
So thus saith the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I am the first, and I am the last, and beside me there is no God. There is only one true and living God, who is not made with hands, who's not made of stone or wood. This is a God who created the world. He created the wood and the stone. Not for you to create a God out of wood and stone, but you're supposed to worship the one that created all of this. There's I am God, and there's none beside me. Keep reading.
And who, as I, shall call and shall declare it, and set it in order for me, since I appointed the ancient people. And the things that are coming, and shall come, let them show unto them. Fear ye not, neither be afraid. Have not I told thee from that time, and have declared it? Ye are even my witnesses. Is there a God besides me? Yea, there is no God. I know not any.
So now here's the Lord speaking through the mouth of Isaiah. He's saying, look, is there a God beside me? There is no God. I don't know any God that's beside me. I'm the only one here. Me, solo. You can't worship nothing else. But just in case you decide to do something on your own, look at the foolishness behind it. Verse 9, go ahead.
They that make a graven image are all of them vanity.
So if you make a graven image and start worshiping it, it's nothing. Keep reading.
And their delectable things shall not profit. And they are their own witnesses. They see not, nor know, that they may be ashamed. Who hath formed a God, or molten a graven image, that is profitable for nothing? Behold, all his fellows shall be ashamed, and the workmen they are of men. Let them all be gathered together, let them stand up, yet they shall fear, and they shall be ashamed together. The smith with the tongs both worketh in the coals, and fashioneth it with hammers, and worketh it with the strength of his arms. Yea, he is hungry, and his strength faileth. He drinketh no water, and is faint.
So you see the smith, the one, the iron worker, right? He beating that iron and making him a god. For all his strength, he putting into that to form this kind of image to do what? To sell it, or to even bow down and worship it his own self. But he putting all his strength into making himself a god. And he hungry. Go ahead.
The carpenter stretcheth out his rule.
So now we got the carpenter, the guy that deals with the wood. He doing the same thing. Go ahead.
He marketh it out with a line. He fitteth it with planes. And he marketh it out with the compass, and maketh it after the figure of a man, according to the beauty of a man, that it may remain in the house.
So all this knowledge the Lord gave him with carpentry, what he do? He take that knowledge and make him a god with it. Go ahead.
He hewn him down cedars, and taketh the cypress and the oak, which he strengtheneth for himself among the trees of the forest. He planteth an ash, and the rain doth nourish it. Then shall it be for a man to burn, for he will take thereof and warm himself. Yea, he kindleth it and baketh bread. Yea, he maketh a god and worshipeth it. He maketh it a graven image and falleth down thereto.
So the same wood he used to make a god, it's that same wood he used to cook with, to warm himself up with. And the ashes, he probably smoked the ashes, but go ahead.
He burned part thereof in the fire. With the part thereof he eateth flesh. He roasteth roast, and is satisfied. Yea, he warmeth himself, and saith, Ah, I am warm, I have seen the fire. And the residue thereof he maketh a god, even his graven image. He falleth down unto it, and worshipeth it, and prayeth unto it, and saith, Deliver me, for thou art my God. They have not known nor understood, for he hath shut their eyes, that they cannot see, and their hearts, that they cannot understand. And none considereth in his heart, neither is there knowledge nor understanding to say, I have burnt part of it in the fire. Yea, also I have baked bread upon the coals thereof. I have roasted flesh and eaten it. And shall I make the residue thereof an abomination? Shall I fall down to the stock of a tree? He feedeth on ashes. A deceived heart hath turned him aside, that he cannot deliver his soul, nor say, Is there not a lie in my right hand?
So this man, he don't even consider that he done took this wood. First, he done cut the tree down, formed him a god out of it, used part of it to cook him some food, used part of it to warm himself up, and he don't even consider in his mind that this stuff is straight up foolishness. He says, shall I fall down to the stock of a tree? Yes, you do. They're going to be doing it. Matter of fact, they're preparing for it right now. We're going to read about it. Numbers 33. So we see the foolishness in idolatry. That's why the title of the lesson is Man's Holidays, Idolatry and Folly Worship. Folly means foolish. Straight up foolishness. It takes a real fool to put a tree in your house, put lights on it, all kind of trinkets and stuff, and then 2 weeks later you're throwing it out. Not to mention you're putting little gifts up under it, like, I mean, we can laugh and joke about it now, but we was all part of it. But we can see the foolishness of it now that we didn't come up out of it, because it is straight up foolish, and people go wholeheartedly on this day. The evilest person in the world all of a sudden become good, and the next day they evil. The day after, they go back to their regular ways. Let's go to Numbers 33. We got a nice little packet here. I might read all of it, I might not. But y'all ain't got nothing to do. It's like my teacher said, if I let you out too early, you might pollute the Sabbath day. So I'll keep you here till sundown just to make sure. Numbers 33, and let's pick it up at verse 50. Okay, go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye are passed over Jordan into the land of Canaan, then ye shall drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you, and destroy all their pictures, and destroy all their molten images, and quite pluck down all their high places.
So the Lord told Moses, look, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when you go over and possess the land, the first thing I want you to do, drive out the inhabitants of the land, destroy all their pictures. They had pictures back then. The same pictures that we used to have. The white Jesus. My grandmother to this day, you know, she dead now, but I can remember she still got that picture of that white Jesus on her wall, right next to Martin Luther King. And we all took pictures of ourselves next to the big trees, all pretty. You know, you got them in a photo album. You got them. Pictures of you next to the tree. Everybody there holding hands, smiling. Keep reading.
And ye shall dispossess the inhabitants of the land, and dwell therein, for I have given you the land to possess it. And ye shall divide the land by lot for an inheritance among your families. And to the more ye shall give the more inheritance, and to the fewer ye shall give the less inheritance. Every man's inheritance shall be in the place where his lot falleth. According to the tribes of your fathers ye shall inherit.
So when you get into the land, you're going to divide it up. First, you got to kick the people out. Break down their images, get rid of all that idol worship that they was doing. Then if you don't do that, verse 55, go ahead.
But if ye will not drive out the inhabitants of the land from before you, then it shall come to pass that those which ye let remain of them shall be pricks in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and shall vex you in the land wherein ye dwell.
So if you don't drive these people out, then they're gonna be a thorn in your side and a prick in your eye. In other words, they're gonna bother you. They're gonna vex you. It's like a pimple, you know. Every time you look in the mirror, you see it. You can't get rid of it. But you should have cleaned your skin up before, you wouldn't have it, right? But keep reading.
Moreover, it shall come to pass that I shall do unto you as I thought to do unto them.
So if you don't do what I tell you to do, remember I was going to drive them out the land? If you don't do what I tell you to do, then I'm going to drive you out the land. And we know the Lord did that because here we are sitting here learning about what we used to do. Deuteronomy chapter 4. So we're going to get into some, we're going to read some of the things the Lord told us not to do, and it's all about idolatry, idol worship. Modern day Christianity has watered down idolatry because modern day Christianity is idolatry. So they can't speak on it because they're part of it. They are paganized. All the way down to sun worship, which is Sunday. You don't believe it? We're going to read it. Deuteronomy chapter 4, and we're going to pick it up at verse 14. Okay, go ahead.
And the Lord commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that ye might do them in the land whither ye go over to possess it. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for ye saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Lord spake unto you in Horeb, out of the midst of the fire. So
when the Lord came down in person and spoke the commandments to the children of Israel, all they saw was smoke and fire. All they heard was trumpets, thundering, and lightning. That was it. So if you're going to make any kind of image, make you a smoke ball and wear it around your neck instead of a cross. Because you didn't see no cross in the smoke. That's why he made sure, because when they was in slavery for Egypt for 400 years, Egypt was steeped in idolatry. So how is it that you're going to come out of a nation and not pick up some of their bad habits? That's why the Lord made sure. He said, look, you didn't see nothing, so don't go making nothing that say this is a God. Go ahead, keep reading.
Lest ye corrupt yourselves, and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the water beneath the earth.
So he know how corrupt this man is. He going to make him a god in the similitude of a male or a female. He going to make him a god in the similitude of an animal, a fish, or even something that's a cockroach or something, an ant. If people didn't worship this type of stuff, the Lord wouldn't say don't do it. Because apparently people were doing it and calling it God. Go ahead.
And lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the hosts of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God hath divided unto all nations under the whole heaven.
So he got everything covered. He covered everything on this earth and then everything out there in space. Because you're going to find out that this December 25th is sun worship. And we're going to read this in history. It is sun worship. along with every other holiday that man has came up with. It's some kind of pagan god, but this big one that's coming up is straight up sun worship. Skip down to verse 23. So don't worship no animals, no fish, no birds, no sun, moon, or stars. But we know people are doing it to this day. What do they call them? Horoscope readers? Astrologers, right? The study of the stars. The stars map your life out. The first thing you do when you get the newspaper, what my horoscope say? Keep reading. Go ahead, verse 23.
Take heed unto yourselves, lest ye forget the covenant of the Lord your God, which he made with you, and make you a graven image, or the likeness of anything which the Lord thy God hath forbidden thee. For the Lord thy God is a consuming fire, even a jealous God. When thou shalt beget children, and children's children, ye shall have remained long in the land, and shall corrupt yourselves, and make a graven image, or the likeness of anything, and shall do evil in the sight of the Lord thy God, to provoke him to anger.
So you see what this idol worship is? You're provoking God to anger. As innocent as it may seem, as much as you put the children involved with it, it is idolatry and it is evil in the sight of the Lord. This is what the books say. It is evil. Keep reading.
I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that ye shall soon utterly perish from off the land whereunto ye go over Jordan to possess it. Ye shall not prolong your days upon it, but shall utterly be destroyed. And the Lord shall scatter you among the nations, and ye shall be left few in number among the heathen, whither the Lord shall lead you.
So we see the Lord told them in Numbers, look, if you don't drive these people out, they're going to be a snare to you. And just like I was going to drive them out, I'm going to drive you out. Before you was a nation, wherever I drive you and scatter you, you're going to be few in numbers. Wherever Israel is, we are the minority. We are the smallest number in the population. But yet we make up the biggest percentage of all oppression. We fill the jails up. Number one in every disease. Keep reading.
And there ye shall serve gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell.
So you had your chance. While you was in the land, you could have served the one and true living God. But since your eyes started to wonder at these other nations, the gods that they were serving, okay, I'm going to scatter you into every nation, and then you're going to serve their God. Even wood and stone, which can neither see, hear, nor smell. A tree can't talk to you. An egg can't talk. And rabbits don't lay eggs either, and they can't even talk either. Let's go to Exodus, Deuteronomy 6. Flip right over to Deuteronomy 6. We're going to read one verse. Because we need to define what this idol worship is, because this is some serious business when it comes to the Lord. He is not playing. People have watered down idolatry, but it's running rampant throughout this whole world. Deuteronomy 6 and one verse, verse 14. Go ahead.
Ye shall not go after other gods, of the gods of the people which are round about you.
So we say, look, you shall not go after other gods. That's plural, right? So there's many gods out there. The gods of the people that are round about you. We who have some understanding of the truth know that we serve the one and true living God. So the Lord is saying, look, do not go after these other gods. And what are these other gods? They out there. Islam, a pagan god. Buddha, a pagan god. Hare Krishna, a pagan god. Sunday worship, a pagan god. Exodus 20. Why do you think they call it Sunday? Sun's day. They worship the sun on that day. That's why it's called Sunday. But modern day Christianity has watered it down to where now you can worship Jesus on Sunday. But if you read 2 Corinthians 11, that's another Jesus that you're worshiping. It's not the Jesus of this Bible. Exodus 20, and let's pick it up at verse 1. Go ahead. Now these are the commandments. 20 and 1, go ahead.
And God spake all these words, saying.
Now pay attention to what we just read. God spake these words, okay? This is not the Mosaic law, the law of Moses. This is the law of God, which he gave to Moses. Keep reading.
I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me. And when you get some understanding, you'll know that this is none other than Jesus. This is Jesus speaking to the children of Israel. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments.
So we see the first commandment that the Lord gave is don't have any other gods before me. Top of the line right there. Commandment number 1, no other gods. Nothing. No fish, no birds, no cows, no chickens, nothing. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. So this is a commandment from God. How is it that if they throw away the Sabbath day out of the commandments, what about the other 9? What about this idol worship? How come they don't throw that out too? They can't, because it's all incorporated in their worship. Deuteronomy 28. So the Lord said, if you don't do this, I'm going to scatter you. Get rid of the idol worship, break down their images, and he's going to warn them again. Deuteronomy 28, and pick it up at verse 15. 28 and 15, go ahead.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So he said, if it come to pass that you don't want to listen to the voice of the Lord, you don't want to obey his voice, you don't want to obey his commandments, then all these curses going to come upon you. We're not going to read all of them, but just a few of them. Skip down to verse 25. Go ahead.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
So he's going to remove you into all the kingdoms of the earth. That means he told you he was going to scatter you. That's what remove means. That means you was removed somewhere else. Skip down to verse 36.
The Lord shall bring thee, and thy king which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone.
So this is one of the curses. We are going to be scattered, and we're going to serve these other gods. This is a curse that the Lord put upon us because we didn't want to listen. We're going to serve other gods, wood and stone. 37, go ahead.
And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations whither the Lord shall lead thee.
So wherever nation you scattered in, you're going to have a different name. And that name is going to be synonymous in every nation. I don't care if you speak Spanish, you got the same name, proverb and byword that they call you over here. Go over there and find out. I've been to Spain, I know. The N-word is still the same. It's just a different accent. And even the ones that don't speak English, they know what that word is, and they know who it applies to. Skip down to verse 45.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee.
So whatever nation we scattered in, we're going to always want. And what is the biggest thing that we want? Is money. Why? Because we ain't never had none. So when you get it, you make sure that everybody else know you got it. You buy all the jewelry, the cars, houses, because we ain't used to have. We want everything because we ain't never had nothing. I mean, we had it, but because we scattered and lost sight of our identity, now we want it all. And the biggest thing that we want is money, so we can buy all them Christmas toys. Skip down to verse, we finished that?
Mm-hmm.
Keep reading. 49, go ahead.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
Okay, skip down to verse 64. So whatever nation that we in, they don't care about you. They don't care about the young man or the old man, or the young child or the young woman. You're all the same. They say we all look alike, right? Verse 64, go ahead.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
So the Lord said every time he scatters us, he always lets you know that whatever nation you in, you're going to be serving their God. Not the one true living God. You're going to be serving their God. Because we didn't know about no Easter. We didn't know about no Christmas. We didn't know about it till you got over here. When it became Christmas. Well, you're going to find out that Christmas always been around. Easter's always been around, just under a different name. The celebration was always there. But they were celebrating a pagan god. And when the Catholic Church came along, I should say the Roman Catholic Church came along, they put the switch on it. And we're going to read it. This big packet here ain't for nothing. I think I might read all of it now. Y'all done got me mad. I'm reading it all. Now you got to get scattered. The Lord said he was going to scatter you, but you can't swim across the sea. So he's going to make some transportation for you. Verse 68, go ahead.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and for bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
So he provided some ships to take out his prophecy. He had to scatter us. How you get across the sea? On a ship. How do we get over here? On a ship. How did they get over there in Jamaica? On a ship. Puerto Rico, on a ship. Cuba, on a ship. All throughout South America, on a ship. The Lord said his prophecy is going to be fulfilled because of our disobedience, and here we are to this day. We got here in America on a ship. Let's go to Matthew 13. Matthew 13. So now that we over here, we serving these gods of wood and stone. And all of a sudden we hear some truth. Somewhere along the line, somebody told you Christmas was garbage. That Easter, that Jesus didn't rise on Easter Sunday. Somewhere along the line, somebody told you that, but did you listen? The Lord gave a parable where 1 out of 4 people got it right. Just 1 out of 4. That's a small percentage when it comes to salvation. 1 out of 4. That's why the Lord said the road to salvation is straight and narrow. And there are few people that find it. That's why this parable, only 1 out of 4 people got it. But the road to destruction is broad. You got over 100,000 denominations that you can read about that take on the name of Jesus, that believe in Jesus, that teach Jesus. But do they really teach it? It's that other Jesus that they teach it. Because Jesus said out of his own mouth in Matthew 24, there are many false prophets. Where are they at? Where are all these false prophets at? How come all these big-time preachers can't get together and have a big conglomeration and millions of dollars? But they all got their own little piece. This my flock, that's your flock. You don't want to intermingle. Flocks don't intermingle because then you taking money out of their pocket. I've never seen anybody from Jake's congregation jump over to Price's church. Never. You can hop denomination to denomination on a small scale, but on a big scale, please. They want their money. Matthew 13, pick it up at verse 1. Go ahead.
The same day went Jesus out of the house, and sat by the seaside. And great multitudes were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat. And the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seed fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places, where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But others fell into good ground, and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear.
Now here's Jesus putting the parable out. He's talking about seeds and thorns and thistles and the sun scorching some and no root. So the disciples wanted to know what's going on with this. Verse 10.
And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand.
So that's why Jesus spoke to them in parables, because you can see something. Before you came into this truth, you probably read this Bible 100 times. And all of a sudden, when you come into the truth and the Lord opened your eyes, you actually get you some understanding of what you read. Because before you were seeing, but you couldn't see it. Somebody that was in the truth might have brought something to you. You heard them, but you really didn't hear them. But now that the Lord has opened your understanding, you actually know what this verse really means. You actually know when Jesus says, no man has ascended up to heaven, but he that came down with him. You actually know what that means. It says exactly what it means. Nobody's in heaven. Before, it couldn't mean that. But yeah, it really does. Nobody's in heaven. Keep reading.
Therefore I speak unto them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand.
Keep reading.
And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they shall see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them.
So anytime somebody bring the truth to you, before you came into this truth, somebody brought it to you. And you were stubborn in the beginning, because the Lord said, for these people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing. You don't want to hear the truth. You don't want to hear that all of these holidays have nothing to do with Jesus. Zero. But you've been accustomed to doing it all your life. Your parents taught it to you. You taught it to your children. And eventually, if you continue in this cycle, your children's children are going to continue to teach and teach and teach, and it's all a lie. Every child is heartbroken when they find out there ain't no such thing as Santa Claus. You teaching your child a lie from the beginning. You got 12 and 13-year-olds still believing that garbage. But society perpetuates it. They keep it going because it's marketable. Every year there's a war on Christmas. Every year there's a war. Just right around this time. We got a war on it the whole year. Not just this time. This is the only time the atheists come out the woodwork. Is around this time. Never hear from them throughout the whole year except around this time. But anyway, keep reading. Did we finish that?
No.
Go ahead.
But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear.
So blessed are your eyes, for y'all see now. We all see. And it's our job to open the eyes of everybody else. You just got to keep doing it. Sometimes it takes 5 years, 6 years, 7, 8, 9, but your actions have to speak. Because eventually they're going to come around. And if they don't, you've done your job. You can't let foolishness go by. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 6. Isaiah 6. And let's read what Jesus quoted. Isaiah chapter 6. We're going to pick it up at verse 8. Isaiah 6 and verse 8. Okay, go ahead.
Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then said I, Here am I, send me. And he said, Go, and tell this people, Hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert and be healed.
So that's the same scripture that Jesus quoted, right out the book of Isaiah. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 6. 1 Corinthians 6. So we just laying some foundation here about this idolatry. And then we're going to get into these holidays that man has conjured up so you can have a good time. And you ain't doing nothing but making the Lord mad. And they don't even know it. 1 Corinthians 6, and pick it up at verse 9. We're going to read 2 verses, 9 and 10. Okay, go ahead.
Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revelers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of God.
It says, Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? And what are some characteristics of being unrighteous? Fornication. Being a fornicator, that's unrighteous. Idolater, idol worship. Those are works of unrighteousness. You won't get into the kingdom. And we're going to see what some idol worship is. Adulterers, effeminates, abusers of themselves and mankind, thieves, covetous, nor drunkards. All of these fall into the commandments. But idolatry, well, we got to find out what that is. Because it's not what it used to be. You know, when they had the little statues and all that, that's that idolatry back then. The trees and the rabbits and the eggs, that's not idolatry now. That's all encompassing Christianity. That's about Jesus. But we're going to see, is it? 1 Corinthians 10, flip right over. 1 Corinthians 10. And read one verse, verse 14.
Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry.
So look at what Paul is telling his Corinthians. He's telling them to flee from idolatry. That means run. That means run. I remember it was me and his brother, about the Israel of God, Big Rob, we used to call him. We'd always, every time around this time in Chicago, we sit around, he's like, man, we had a Uzi, man. Let's just go shoot up all them big Santa Claus they got in their front yard, you know. Because it's stressful, man, I'm telling you. It is very stressful around this time. Because if you don't have high blood pressure now, you get it around this time. If you're a servant of the Lord, because it is just so much love around here, it is sickening. And it's love for the wrong reason. It is love for the wrong reason. Flip over to 2 Corinthians 6. 2 Corinthians chapter 6. Pick it up at verse 14. 6 and 14, go ahead.
Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? And what concord hath Christ with Belial? Or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel? And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God, as God hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty.
So the Lord said, come out from among them and separate yourselves. And that's exactly what you do when you come into the knowledge of this truth. You know that all of these man-made holidays, especially the ones that they stamp Jesus on, is garbage. It all goes back to idol worship. No matter how smooth and cuddly and sweet and innocent it may be, it is straight up garbage. Now let's go to Exodus chapter 12. Let's get into some of these holidays. We're going to pick it up right at the beginning. And we're going to walk all these holidays all the way down to the big one, which comes up in a couple of weeks. And we're going to show you that each one deals with a pagan god. In the beginning, and how it got switched around and was fed to you to make you think it's okay. Exodus 12. Exodus 12, we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
So the Lord spake unto Moses. Now, this is the Lord talking to Moses and Aaron. And he told Moses and Aaron, this month shall be the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year unto you. And it's not January. It is the first month of the year unto you. And let's find out when that first month starts. Keep reading.
Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your account for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
So this whole feast that we talk about here is the Passover, okay? The Passover is in the first month of the year. Skip down to verse 11.
And thus shall ye eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover.
So we see in the first month of the year, it's the Lord's Passover, okay? And when does the Passover start? In springtime. Not in the dead of winter, in the spring. Because the Lord is real significant about you knowing what starts and what begins. The new year always starts in the spring. Why? Because new life springs up. That's why they call it spring. Because everything's been dead throughout the winter. Now everything is springing back up to new life. So if you want to do a happy new year, do it in March. So the Lord instituted the first month of the year in the springtime. Let's look at this New Year's Day. It's on the packet. We can ready to read some stuff now. If you ain't got a packet, share with somebody. New Year's Day, the first holiday in man's new year. And man's year is New Year's Day. And I took the liberty of outlining everything I want y'all to see. A lot of that stuff is relevant, but not relevant to what the lesson is about. New Year's Day, go ahead and read.
Civilizations around the world have been celebrating the start of each new year for at least 4 millennia. Today, most New Year's festivities begin on December 31st, New Year's Eve, the last day of the Gregorian calendar, and continuing into the early hours of January 1st, New Year's Day. Common traditions include attending parties, eating special New Year's foods, making resolutions for the new year, and watching fireworks displays.
So we know about that, right? Used to love them New Year's Eve parties. Not no more. Go ahead.
Early New Year's celebrations. The earliest recorded festivities in honor of a New Year's arrival date back some 4,000 years to ancient Babylon. For the Babylonians, the first new moon followed the vernal equinox, the day in late March with an equal amount of sunlight and darkness, heralded the start of the new year.
So we see the Lord had it way back from the beginning. And even though some of these nations didn't know who the one true living God was, they knew when the new year started. So the ancient Babylonians they got it right in late March. Go ahead.
They marked occasions with massive religious festivals called Akitu, derived from the Sumerian word for barley, which was cut in the spring, that involved a different ritual on each of its 11 days. In addition to the new year, Akitu celebrated the mythical victory of the Babylonian sky god Marduk over the evil sea goddess Tiamat, and served an important political purpose. It was during this time that a new king was crowned, or that the current ruler's divine mandate was symbolically renewed. Throughout antiquity, civilizations around the world developed increasingly sophisticated calendars, typically pinning the first day of the year to an agricultural or astronomical event. In Egypt, for instance, the year began with the annual flooding of the Nile, which coincided with the rising of the star Sirius. The first day of the Chinese New Year, meanwhile, occurred with the second new moon after the winter solstice. January 1 becomes New Year's Day.
Now here's how you got January the 1st now. Go ahead.
The early Roman calendar consisted of 10 months and 304 days.
So if you look up the Roman calendar, it started in March. And it went through December. That's why December, the prefix for 10 is Deci, right? December. That's why December is the 10th month. It's always been the 10th month. It's just when Rome started messing around with the calendar, December became the 12th month, but it's always been the 10th month. Keep reading.
With each new year beginning at the vernal equinox. According to tradition, it was created by Romulus, the founder of Rome. In the 8th century BC, a later king, Numa Pompilius, is credited with adding the months of Januarius and Februarius. Over the centuries, the calendar fell out of sync with the sun, and in 46 BC, the Emperor Julius Caesar decided to solve the problem by consulting with the most prominent astronomers and mathematicians of his time. He introduced the Julian calendar, which closely resembles the more modern Gregorian calendar that most countries around the world use today. As part of his reform, Caesar instituted January 1st as the first day of the year, partly to honor the month's namesake, Janus, the Roman god of beginnings.
So who instituted January the 1st? Julius Caesar. Why? To honor a pagan god, Janus. And Janus, if you look him up, he had two faces. One that looked this way and one that looked that way. One that's looking in the past, one that's looking towards the future, which is why you make New Year's resolutions. Keep reading. Keep reading.
Janus, the Roman god of beginnings, whose two faces allowed him to look back into the past and forward into the future. Romans celebrated by offering sacrifices to Janus, exchanging gifts with one another, decorating their homes with laurel branches, and attending raucous parties.
Don't they do that on New Year's Eve? Big old party, right? New Year's rockin' Eve, everybody looking at a big ball in the sky drop down. And then you can drink your little champagne, kiss each other, kiss strangers, and have a big party. And this is Julius Caesar, right? He did this. Keep reading.
In medieval Europe, Christian leaders temporarily replaced January 1st as the first of the year with days carrying more religious significance.
Now here the Catholic Church now, they come along. We can't have all these parties now. Let's put some religion behind it. Go ahead.
Such as December 25th, the anniversary of Jesus' birth, and March 25th, the feast of the Annunciation. Pope Gregory the 13th reestablished January 1st as New Year's Day in 1582.
Okay, that's good on that one. So we see what January the 1st came. The Lord told you springtime was a new year. Right. Julius Caesar told you January the 1st was a new year. And you can have big parties and all that. And then Pope Gregory reinstituted it in 1582. Let's go to the next one. This is the big one right here. People really can't believe that this is pagan. With all the chocolate and the red roses and the hearts, man, this has got to be. I mean, what's wrong with it? Women getting boxes of milk duds and flowers. It's true love, right? Let's see where it came from. Valentine's Day, go ahead.
Every February 14th across the United States and in other places around the world, candy, flowers, and gifts are exchanged between loved ones, all in the name of Saint Valentine. But who is this mysterious saint, and where did these traditions come from? Find out about the history of this centuries-old holiday from ancient Roman rituals to the customs of Victorian England.
Here we go with Rome again. You're going to find that every holiday that we're reading about, it's got one common denominator, Rome. Go ahead.
The legend of Saint Valentine. The history of Valentine's Day, as the story of its patron saint, is shrouded in mystery. We do know that February has long been celebrated as a month of romance, and that Saint Valentine's Day, as we know it today, contains vestiges of both Christian and ancient Roman tradition. But who was Saint Valentine, and how did he become associated with this ancient rite?
Yeah, who is this guy? Go ahead.
The Catholic Church recognizes at least 3 different saints named Valentine or Valentinus, all of whom were martyred. One legend contends that Valentine was a priest who served during the 3rd century in Rome. When Emperor Claudius II decided that single men made better soldiers than those with wives and families, he outlawed marriage for young men. Valentine, realizing the injustice of the decree, defied Claudius and continued to perform marriages for young lovers in secret. When Valentine's actions were discovered, Claudius ordered that he be put to death.
Okay, skip down to the one where it says the origin of it.
Origins of Valentine's Day, a pagan festival in February.
Not Valentine's Day, a pagan festival? Chocolates and flowers and candy? Keep reading.
While some believe that Valentine's Day is celebrated in the middle of February to commemorate the anniversary of Valentine's death or burial, which probably occurred around AD 270, others claim that the Christian Church may have decided to place St. Valentine's feast day in the middle of February in an effort to Christianize the pagan celebration of Lupercalia.
Now, this is the Catholic Church. Now, whenever you see the church, this is the Roman Catholic Church. Every time they saw something that was going against the Jesus that they thought they believed in, they tried to Christianize it. In other words, if you believe in the one true living God, all that pagan worship you're doing to honor that God, you're going to stop doing it and start worshiping Jesus. You ain't going to take that God and change the name of it so you can keep doing what you're doing. Because you really didn't stop. You still honoring that same Lupercalia. But it's now Valentine, or love and candy and flowers, or Cupid. Go ahead.
Celebrated at the Ides of February, or February 15th, Lupercalia was a fertility festival dedicated to Faunus, the Roman god of agriculture, as well as to the Roman founders Romulus and Remus.
So Lupercalia was a fertility festival. What's fertility? Why you think you got flowers and candy? You give them to who? Another woman. You do the thing, they happy. Fertility. That's all it's about. To who? The Roman god of agriculture, which is Faunus. So, read over, keep reading.
To begin the festival, members of the Luperci, an order of Roman priests, would gather at a sacred cave where the infants Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome, were believed to have been cared for by a she-wolf named Lupa. The priests would sacrifice a goat for fertility and a dog for purification. They would then strip the goat's hide into strips, dip them into the sacrificial blood, and take them to the streets, gently slapping both women and crop fields with the goat hide. Far from being fearful, Roman women welcomed the touch of the hides because it was believed to make them more fertile in the coming year. Later in the day, according to the legend, all the young women in the city would place their names in a big urn. The city's bachelors would each choose a name and become paired for the year with his chosen woman. These matches often ended in marriage.
Well, this is a fable, right? Valentine's Day is a fable. And you got some Sunday Christians that do this. They can't wait. I mean, their spouses or their girlfriends get mad if they don't get nothing on that day. And it ain't got nothing to do with Jesus. It's a pagan god. Let's go to the next one. This is not as big as it is out here, but in some states, like back home in Chicago, this is a big deal. In Ireland, it's not as big, but it's still a big deal. St. Patrick's Day. Go ahead.
St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day is celebrated on March 17th, the saint's religious feast and the anniversary of his death in the 5th century. The Irish have observed this day as a religious holiday for over 1,000 years. On St. Patrick's Day, which falls during the Christian season of Lent.
Christian season of Lent, okay? Keep that in mind because we're going to cover that one too. Go ahead.
Irish families would traditionally attend church in the morning to celebrate in the afternoon. Lenten prohibitions against the consumption of meat were waived and people would dance, drink, and feast on the traditional meal of Irish bacon and cabbage. St. Patrick's and the first St. Patrick's Day parade. St. Patrick, who lived during the 5th century, is the patron saint and national apostle of Ireland. Both in Roman Britain, he was kidnapped and brought to Ireland as a slave at the age of 16. He later escaped but returned to Ireland and was credited with bringing Christianity to its people. In the centuries following Patrick's death, believed to have been on March 17, 461, the mythology surrounding his life became ever more ingrained in the Irish culture. Perhaps the most well-known legend is that he explained the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, using the 3 leaves of the native Irish clover, the shamrock.
So now this guy, even though ain't no such thing as no Holy Trinity, he took some leaves or some plant and said, okay, this the whole 3-leaf clover, right? A Lucky Charms, you know, the cereal. Hope y'all don't eat that cereal. Okay, flip over to the next page. I want to read about Chicago because this is a big deal in Chicago. It's so big that they turned the river green. The Chicago River on St. Patrick's Day. Go ahead and read that a little bit.
As Irish immigrants spread out over the United States, other cities developed their own traditions. One of these is Chicago's annual dyeing of the Chicago River green. The practice started in 1962 when city pollution control workers used dyes to trace illegal sewage discharges and realized that the green dye might provide a unique way to celebrate the holiday. That year, they released 100 pounds of green vegetable dye into the river, enough to keep it green for a week. Today, in order to minimize environmental damage, only 40 pounds of dye are used, and the river turns green for only several hours.
Go ahead.
Although Chicago historians claim their city idea for a green river was original, some natives of Savannah, Georgia, whose St. Patrick's Day parade, the oldest in the nation, dates back to 1813, believe the idea originated in their town. They point out that in 1961, a hotel restaurant manager named Ted Woolley convinced city officials to dye Savannah's river green. The experiment didn't exactly work as planned, and the water only took a slight greenish hue. Savannah never attempted to dye its river again, but Woolley maintains, though others refute his claim, that he personally suggested the idea to Chicago's mayor Richard J. Daley.
So we see St. Patrick's Day is garbage too, but you got some Sunday Christians that go for it. Sometimes you got to be mindful. Sometimes during this time, subconsciously I put green on for some reason. And I got to check myself. I'm like, wait a minute. And then even around this time, you got to pretty much watch the colors you wearing. If you got too much red and green on, they think you in the festive mood. You in the season. I try to stay away from red and green around this time because the books say hold fast to that which is good, abstain from even the appearance of evil. And even during this next season, holiday we about to come up, but you got to watch about wearing orange and black. You wear it too early, you good. You wear it around before it comes up, they think you're getting ready for it. How did orange and black become associated with Halloween? What do these colors have to do with anything? But they've taken Halloween, put the switch on it too. Instead of Halloween is evil. They know it's evil. But in order to put a good switch on it, well, you don't have to dress up like no demon or no ghost. Dress up like Spider-Man or an angel or something, But why don't you keep Halloween the way it is? Pure evil. It's the way it is. It's evil. It was like that from the beginning, and it's still like that today. Ain't nothing changed with Halloween. People try to water it down, but it's straight up evil. Let's read about it. Halloween, which they call the harvest season. Go ahead.
Halloween, straddling the line between fall and winter, plenty and paucity, life and death, Halloween is a time of celebration and superstition. It is thought to have originated with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain.
It's pronounced Samhain.
Samhain. When people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off roaming ghosts.
So you see where it came from? The Celtic people are Irish. They're the Irish people, okay? And it says they would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off roaming ghosts. Go ahead.
In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor all saints and martyrs.
So here we get the Catholic Church now. They couldn't outlaw it, so what did they do? They just incorporated it into one of their holidays. What's the day after November 1st? All Saints Day. You got an October 31st to ward off all the dead people, but now the next day is going to be saintly. Go ahead.
The holiday, All Saints Day, incorporated some of the traditions of Samhain. The evening before was known as All Hallows Eve, and later Halloween. Over time, Halloween evolved into a secular community-based event characterized by child-friendly activities such as trick-or-treating.
Throw the kids in there, it's okay. It's all good now, trick-or-treating, get a little candy, snatch a few bags if you're a teenager. Go ahead.
In a number of countries around the world, as the day grows shorter and the nights get colder, people continue to usher in the winter season with gatherings, costumes, and sweet treats.
Okay, let's look at the real origin of Halloween. Go ahead, ancient origins.
Ancient origins of Halloween. Halloween's origins date back to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. It's pronounced Samhain. The Celtics who lived 2,000 years ago in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France, celebrated their new year on November 1st.
So this is their new year. This is the Celts' new year. You can read about it. Go ahead.
This day marked the end of summer and the harvest and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time of year that was often associated with human death. Celts believed that on the night before the new year, the boundary between the world of the living and the dead became blurred. On the night of October 31st, they celebrated Samhain, when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to the earth. In addition to causing trouble and damaging crops, Celts thought that the presence of the otherworldly spirits made it easier for the Druids, or Celtic priests, to make predictions about the future. For a people entirely dependent on the volatile natural world, these prophecies were an important source of comfort and direction during the long dark winter. To commemorate the event, Druids built huge sacred bonfires where the people gathered to burn crops and animals as sacrifices to the Celtic deities.
So here they go again, sacrificing to a pagan god. What's a deity? A god. Look at the Celtic traditions. Look it up. I mean, I got one source here, but if I put every source on here just to line it up, we'd be here all day. Because we could go from encyclopedia to encyclopedia. And I got this off the History Channel, which they show all this stuff. Every year they show it. And they start off with the truth, which people just go over people's head, and they just look for the good stuff because that's what we're used to seeing. Nobody cares that they used to kill people during Halloween and sacrifice them in the fire. No, it's not about that now, but it is. Go ahead.
During the celebration, the Celts wore costumes typically consisting of animal heads and skins and attempted to tell each other's fortunes. When the celebration was over, they relit their hearth fires, which they had extinguished earlier that evening from the sacred bonfire to help protect them during the coming winter. By 43 AD, the Roman Empire had conquered the majority of Celtic territory.
Wait a minute, not Rome again. Rome conquered the Celtic territory, right? And what did they do? Go ahead.
In the course of the 400 years, they ruled the Celtic lands.
So it took them 400 years to get some territorial control over them. Let's influence some of our Roman cultures onto them. Because they was already doing their own thing to their own pagan god. But go ahead.
Two festivals of Roman origin were combined with the traditional Celtic celebration of Samhain.
So two festivals of Roman origin, they took their little festivals and combined them with the Celtic festival of Samhain. Go ahead.
The first was Ferilia, a day in late October when the Romans traditionally commemorated the passing of the dead. The second was a day to honor Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. The symbol of Pomona is the apple, and the incorporation of this celebration into Samhain probably explains the tradition of bobbing for apples that is practiced today on Halloween.
Anybody ever bob for apples on Halloween? Goddess Pomona, paying homage. Go ahead.
On May 13, 609 AD, Pope Boniface IV dedicated the Pantheon in Rome in honor of all Christian martyrs, and the Catholic feast of All Martyrs' Day was established in the Western Church. Pope Gregory III, 731 to 741, later expanded the festival to include all saints as well as all martyrs, and moved the observance from May 13th to November 1st. By the 9th century, the influence of Christianity had spread into Celtic lands.
Now, this is Roman Christianity now. This ain't Bible Christianity. This is Roman Christianity. It spread into the Celtic lands, and what did they do? Go ahead.
Where it gradually blended with and supplanted the older Celtic rites.
So Roman Christianity, instead of wiping it out, they blended it in and gave it to you this day. That's why you got Halloween harvest celebrations in Sunday churches. They know how evil Halloween is and everything behind it, so let's change the name. We won't call it Halloween. We'll call it a harvest, some kind of harvest festival. Just like they know the foolishness behind Easter, which we're going to get to in a minute. So they changed it to Resurrection Sunday or Resurrection Festivals. You know, we don't want to have nothing to eat Easter. We can't put Easter on that. We'll call it Resurrection. But keep reading.
In 1000 AD, the church would make November 2nd All Saints' Day, All Souls' Day, a day to honor the dead.
Honoring the dead. This is a church that's doing this now. Keep reading.
It is widely believed today that the church was attempting to replace the Celtic Festival of the Dead with a related but church-sanctioned holiday. All Souls' Day was celebrated similarly to Samhain, with big bonfires, parades, and dressing up in costumes as saints, angels, and devils. The All Saints' Day celebration was also called All Hallows or All Hallow Mass, from Middle English All Hallow Messe, meaning All Saints' Day. And the night before it, The traditional night of Samhain in the Celtic religion began to be called All Hallows Eve and eventually Halloween.
So we see where Halloween came from. And this is big business now. It's big business. Candy, costumes, even church festivals. I'm telling you, it's in there. I've seen it all around where I live at. They have all kind of celebrations around this time. And even in the school system, they try to hide. How is it that pumpkins always pop up around Halloween? You never see them nowhere throughout the year. And pumpkin is a squash. I see yellow squash and green squash all year round. But when it comes to Halloween, that's the only time I see a pumpkin. And then they take the kids to the pumpkin patch so they can find them a pumpkin to do what? Carve it out, make a jack-o'-lantern, put a lamp in it. Roman Catholic Church has nothing to do with Jesus, nothing. It's all celebrating a pagan god. You can read that one on your own. Let's talk about this other one down in Mexico. Flip over to the next page. Halloween around the world. Because this is big time in Mexico. But it's all part of Halloween as well. And this is going to really tell you, I mean, anytime you go to have a barbecue at a graveyard for dead people, I mean, you got to be seriously deep in Satan worship. Go ahead.
Halloween around the world. Halloween, one of the world's oldest holidays, is still celebrated today in a number of countries around the globe. In Mexico and other Latin American countries, Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, honors deceased loved ones and ancestors.
Now, this is so big, they even put this on the news. This is a big holiday in Mexico, honoring dead people. People dressing up, walking around with skulls, sugar skulls they call it. You got one of these singers get a sugar skull tattooed on them. That's straight up crazy. But skulls are running rampant anyway. I mean, I've seen little children's clothes with skulls on them. I mean, what's going on? Keep reading.
In countries such as Ireland, Canada, and the United States, adults and children alike revel in the popular Halloween holiday, which derive from ancient festivals and religious rituals. Traditions include costume parties, trick-or-treating, pranks, and games. Dia de los Muertos. In Mexico, Latin America, and Spain, All Souls Day, which takes place on November 2nd, is commemorated with a 3-day celebration that begins on the evening of October 31st. The celebration is designed to honor the dead who, it is believed, return to their earthly homes on Halloween. Many families construct an altar to the dead in their homes to honor deceased relatives and decorate it with candy, flowers, photographs, samples of the deceased's favorite food and drinks, and fresh water.
So you ever wonder why every time whenever somebody gets hit by a car, wherever they die at, you always see something out there, don't you? These candles with all kind of foolishness, you know? Put teddy bears and stuff just right here. Keep reading.
Often, a wash basin and a towel are left out so that the spirit can wash before indulging in the feast.
Oh, that's enough of that. You're going to leave out some water. But you can read the rest of it on your own. You can read it on your own. I'm going to cut a little bit short so we can get back to some of this book. But let's read about this trick-or-treating real quick. Because trick-or-treating is not as innocent as you think it is. I don't care how many kids they put in it. Trick-or-treating is satanic, right along with Halloween. Go ahead. Ancient origins of trick-or-treating.
Halloween has its roots in the ancient...
read up top first. Read the good part of trick-or-treating.
Okay. History of trick-or-treating. Trick-or-treating, going from house to house in search of candy and other goodies, has been a popular Halloween tradition in the United States and other countries for an estimated 100 years.
So we know that, right? I did it myself when I was little. It's all innocent, right? Is it? Go ahead.
But the origins of this community-based ritual, which costumed children typically savor while their cavity-conscious parents grudgingly tag along, remain hazy. Possible forerunners to modern-day trick-or-treating have been identified in ancient Celtic festivals, early Roman Catholic holidays, medieval practices, and even British policies. Ancient origins of trick-or-treating. Halloween has its roots in the ancient pre-Christian Celtic festival of Samhain, which was celebrated on the night of October 31st. The Celts, who lived 2,000 years ago in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France, believed that the dead returned to the earth on Samhain. People would gather to light bonfires, offer sacrifice, and pay homage to the deceased.
Now, these people, they were serious. I mean, pagans are really serious about their worship. They serious. I mean, anytime you're going to kill somebody, that's serious business, serious worship. They was not playing. They look forward to these seasons. Keep reading.
During some Celtic celebrations of Samhain, villagers disguised themselves in costumes made of animal skins to drive away phantom visitors. Banquet tables were prepared and edible offerings were left out to placate unwelcome spirits. In later centuries, people began dressing as ghosts, demons, and other malevolent creatures, performing antics in exchange for food or drink. This custom, known as mumming, dates back to the Middle Ages and is thought to be an antecedent of trick-or-treating. Early Christian and medieval roots of trick-or-treating. By the 9th century, Christianity had spread into Celtic lands, where it gradually blended with the supplanted older pagan rites.
So Christianity blended in with paganism, just like it is today. Go ahead.
In 1000 AD, the church designated November 2nd as All Souls Day, a time for honoring the dead. Celebrations in England resembled Celtic commemorations of Samhain, complete with bonfires and masquerades. Poor people would visit the houses of wealthier families and receive pastries called soul cakes.
Soul cake, ain't that something? Never heard of that one. Go ahead.
In exchange for a promise to pray for the souls of the homeowners' dead relatives. Known as souling, the practice was later taken up by children who would go from door to door asking for gifts such as food, money, and ale.
So we see where trick-or-treating come from. It's all part of Halloween, ancient Celtic tradition. Rome came along, put their little spin on it, and gave it to you, Sunday Christian. And it's all part, remember the Halloween or the November 1st was the start of the new year for the Celtic people, which was their harvest festival. And let's look at this next one, and then we're going to get to some book. Let's look at this next harvest festival, which people have a hard time believing that it has some roots in paganism. But it does. And it's Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Day, go ahead.
Thanksgiving Day. The Pilgrims, who in 1621 observed our initial Thanksgiving holiday, were not a people especially enthusiastic about the celebration of festivals. In fact, these austere and religious settlers of America would have been dismayed had they known of the long and popular history of harvest festivals.
So Thanksgiving is a harvest festival. It's just called Thanksgiving Day over here. We just late getting into the game. All these other nations always had some kind of festival that they celebrated during the harvest season at the end of the year when they would bring their crops in. They was thankful that whatever God they were serving blessed them with these bountiful crops. So they sacrificed to their God. It was a harvest festival. Thanksgiving Day, same thing. Go ahead.
Of which their Thanksgiving was only the latest. It seemed that wherever man has tilled the soil and urged his crops into fruition, he has paid homage to the heavenly being who has permitted him such good fortune. And he has taken care by means of sacrifices to ensure the continued benefits of the supreme power. The harvest festival, with its attendant rites, seemed to have spread out from a relatively small area of land from Egypt and Syria and Mesopotamia. The first or the last sheaf of wheat was offered to the great mother, or the mother of the wheat. For the earth power was essentially a feminine force. Astarte was the earth mother of the ancient Semites.
Remember that name, Astarte, because it's going to come up again. Go ahead.
To the Phrygians, she was Semele. Under the name of Demeter, she was worshipped by the Greeks at the famous Eleusinian mysteries. Ceres, the Roman god of corn, presided over the October Cerealia. The Jews celebrate two harvest festivals: Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, in the spring, and Sukkot, the Feast of Booths, which is in the fall. In medieval times, Germany, France, Holland, England, and the countries of Central Europe observed the feast of St. Martin of Tours, Martinmas, on November 11th, at the time of the harvest joicings.
So every nation had some kind of harvest festival dedicated to their God. The Lord gave us the Feast of Tabernacles. Why? Because it means something. It's not dedicated to no god of corn or god of wheat or some earth mother. The Feast of Tabernacles represents when the Lord gets back, he's going to gather his people. That's why we keep that feast every year. We know why we feasting and eating and having a good time and honor the God of Israel, because we know when he come back, he's going to relieve us from this captivity that we're in. Because the Bible says the same one that scattered you is going to come back and gather you. And that's what the Feast of Tabernacles represent. Okay, read this last paragraph and let's see some real harvest festivity. Go ahead.
In our own hemisphere, among the Aztecs of Mexico, the harvest took on a grimmer aspect. Each year, a young girl, a representation of Xilonen, the goddess of the new corn, was beheaded.
So here we go now. This is a harvest festival. They take a young girl and cut her head off. Why? To dedicate it to this goddess of corn, Xilonen. Keep reading.
The Pawnees also sacrificed the girl. In a more temperate mood, the Cherokees of the American Southeast danced the green corn dance and began the new year at harvest end.
So all these Hebrews run around there being half Indian, want to be Cherokee. You danced around some corn, okay? That's what one half of your ancestry did, since you want to be half Indian. Okay, let's get to some book now. Let's go to Matthew 23, Matthew 12. So we covered everything. We done brought everything all the way down to Thanksgiving. Now let's go back to the springtime. And then we're going to culminate it with Christmas. So let's get back to some book. So we see all these holidays. These are man's holidays, and it's all idolatry. It all has to do with a pagan god. Every one of them. And if you're serving the one true living God, you don't need to be involved in this stuff. So you can see the fallacy behind Sunday Christianity, because they're involved in this. Why? Because Rome came in, blended it up, and gave it to you. Matthew 12. And now we're going to get to Easter. Matthew 12, and pick it up at verse 38. Go ahead.
Then certain of the scribes and of the Pharisees answered, saying, Master, we would see a sign from thee. But he answered and said unto them, An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given to it but the sign of the prophet Jonas. For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth.
So the Pharisees wanted to see a sign from Jesus that he was the Christ, because they was always hitting on him. Tell us if you the Christ. Tell us, tell us, tell us. So he said, look, I ain't going to tell you nothing. But an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given to it but the sign of the prophet Jonas. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. That's the only sign that I'm going to give you that I'm the Christ. I'm going to be dead for 3 days. 3 days and 3 nights is 72 hours. If you go on a 3-day, 3-night cruise, if you book a 3-day, 3-night cruise, you expect to get 72 hours out of it, right? But apparently, a day don't really mean a day when it comes to the Bible. I guess a day back then wasn't 24 hours. But the book say 3 days and 3 nights, and that's 72 hours. Now let's go to Ezekiel chapter 8. Remember that 3 days and 3 nights. Because what's the modern day teaching? Jesus died on Good Friday, and he rose Easter Sunday. Can you get 3 days and 3 nights from Friday to Sunday? It's impossible. I don't care if they say, well, they considered part of the day as being a day. Even then, you can't get the math out of it. And we're going to show you that too. Ezekiel chapter 8. You doing all right, brother? You need some of that green water?
I'm good.
Okay. Ezekiel chapter 8. Let's look at some more idolatry. Ezekiel 8, and pick it up at verse 1. Go ahead.
And it came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I sat in mine house, and the elders of Judah sat before me, that the hand of the Lord God fell there upon me. Then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire, from the appearance of his loins even downward fire, and from his loins even upward, as the appearance of brightness, as the color of amber. And he put forth the form of a hand, and took me by a lock of mine head. And the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven, and brought me into the vision of God to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looketh toward the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy.
Now this is Ezekiel. The Lord is showing him a vision, okay? And he says, he took me by a lock of my hair, and he brought me in the visions of God to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looketh toward the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoketh to jealousy. And what would make God jealous? Putting another God before him. And the Lord is going to show Ezekiel what these elders who trying to play holy in front of him, what they doing behind closed doors. Verse 5, go ahead. I'm sorry, verse 4.
And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there, according to the vision that I saw in the plain. Then said he unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way towards the north. So I lifted up mine eyes the way towards the north. And behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. He said furthermore unto me, Son of man, seest thou what they do? Even the great abominations that the house of Israel commit here, that I should go far from my sanctuary. But turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations. And he brought me to the door of the court. And when I looked, behold, a hole in the wall. Then he said unto me, Son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I had digged in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, Go in and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping thing, and abominable beast, and all the idols of the house of Israel, portrayed upon the wall round about.
So now they got pictures of what? Creeping things, abominable beasts, pictures on the wall. The same thing that the Lord told us in Deuteronomy chapter 4 not to do. Don't worship none of these creeping things, these fish, these birds. They got them on their walls. Images, pictures on their walls. Go ahead.
And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel. And in the midst of them stood Jazaniah, the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand. And a thick cloud of incense went up. Then he said unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark, every man in the chamber of his imagery? For they say, The Lord seeth us not, the Lord hath forsaken the earth. He said also unto me, Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations that they do.
So everything is getting worse and worse. If you think the pictures on the wall is bad, look at this right here. He's telling Ezekiel. Go ahead.
Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz.
You got women weeping for Tammuz, another pagan god. Go ahead.
Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations than these. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house. And behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs towards the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east. And they worshiped the sun towards the east.
So sun worship was rampant amongst Israel, okay? That's why, what do they call Easter? Sunrise service. And we're going to show you when Jesus rose, it was still dark. So where you get sunrise service from? It's sun worship. You're not worshiping Jesus when you have sunrise service. You're worshiping the sun, the rising of the sun. Now let's go to Matthew 26. Matthew 26. Because we still got to get these 3 days and 3 nights, man. Matthew 26. And pick it up at verse 1. Matthew 26 and verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
And it came to pass, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples, Ye know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified.
So Jesus said to his disciples, you know after 2 days is Good Friday, and they're going to kill me. He didn't say that, did he? He said the Passover. After 2 days is the Passover, and the Son of Man is to be betrayed and is betrayed to be crucified. Why is it that nobody keeps the Passover? They give you Easter till you throw up, but they won't even talk about the Passover. And they tell you that Easter came from the Passover. I beg to differ. We're going to read where Easter came from. And it didn't come from the Passover. So, if Jesus died on the Passover, not Good Friday. But then they'll tell you, well, the Passover fell on that Friday, on that Thursday night. No, it didn't. Because you can't get 3 days and 3 nights from Friday to Sunday. So if he didn't die on Good Friday, when did he die? It's not in the script. Let's go to Daniel chapter 9. Daniel 9. Because Jesus' ministry was supposed to last for 7 years. And right in the middle of his ministry, they killed him on the Passover. Daniel 9. I just threw this one in there like we don't have enough to read, but we got a couple more hours. I might keep y'all here till the sun go down. Daniel 9. And this whole chapter, this 9th chapter of Daniel is a lesson within itself, but we're going to see what pertains to the Messiah. Daniel 9 and 26. Start at 25. Go ahead.
Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem, unto the Messiah the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times.
So now we're talking about the Messiah, right? This is Jesus. Go ahead.
And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week.
Who is this he that's going to confirm the covenant? Jesus, the Messiah. He's going to confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. Go ahead.
And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease.
So in the middle of the week, in the middle of his ministry, he's going to cause a sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And how is he going to do that? They're going to kill him. Jesus is going to die in the middle of his ministry or in the midst of the week. So now, flip over 1 page to the handout and look at the 3 days and 3 nights. Flip over 1 page, and then we're going to get back to the next page. But flip over 1 page, and let's look at the 3 days and 3 nights. Look at the traditional teaching. That Jesus died Friday and rose Sunday. You can't get it. You can't get 3 days and 3 nights that we read in Matthew chapter 12. 3 days and 3 nights. Go to your travel agent and book a 3-day, 3-night cruise, and they tell you, look, you're going to fly down to Miami on Friday night, but then you got to come back Sunday morning. You're going to want your money back because that's not 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days and 3 nights. You want 72 hours, 3 days. So we see that Friday, Good Friday to Sunday, that's wrong because you only get 1 day and 2 nights. But if he died in the midst of the week, which is a Wednesday, he was in the grave Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. He was in the grave Thursday in the daytime, Friday in the daytime, and Saturday just before sundown, he got up out that grave and was gone. That's your 3 days and 3 nights. The same day he went in the grave, 3 days later was the same time he came out. And just to show you, let's go to John chapter 20 to let you know the sunrise service is pagan. Good Friday is pagan. Because Easter, the resurrection of Jesus is what Sunday worship was totally based on. Because you can look up Sunday in the dictionary and it'll tell you that. It's all based on the resurrection of Jesus. But did he rise on Sunday morning? John chapter 20, and we're going to read one verse, and it's going to explain it all. John 20 and verse 1. Okay, read.
The first day of the week.
First day of the week. We all know that's Sunday, right? Go ahead.
Cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark.
So Mary Magdalene is coming to the grave on the first day of the week, which is Sunday, and it's still dark. Go ahead.
Unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken away from the sepulchre.
Verse 2, go ahead, read that one.
Then she runneth and cometh to Simon Peter, and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, and saith unto them, They have taken away the Lord out of the sepulchre, and we know not where they have laid him.
So now we got something going on now. Mary is coming to the grave. It's Sunday morning, still dark, early Sunday, and it's dark. And where's Jesus? Gone. So much for sunrise service. You worshiping the sun. Jesus was gone, and it was still dark. He did not come out the grave at the rising of the sun. It's like all the movies portray. The books say it was dark and he was gone. So where did this Easter come from? Flip back to the next page and read Exhibit 2. Flip backwards. Oh, you don't have it. Okay, it came out of this history book right there. We're going to have the brother read out the history book. Y'all just follow along. It's called Pagan Rites Absorbed. Pagan again, remember that. Pagan Rites Absorbed. It's coming out of the last 2 million years. It's a history book. You can get it online or get it on the bookstore if you can find it, because they're really trying to get rid of books. What's this Kindle Fire they got? They don't want you to read no books. That's so they can control you. But I like books. I found me an old set of encyclopedias for $20. An entire set, almost brand new, from the 70s, $20. And the guy was like, who reads this stuff anymore? I'm like, I do. Give me my books, man. Pagan Rites Absorbed. Go ahead.
By a stroke of tactical genius, the church, while intolerant of pagan beliefs.
Now, this is the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, by a stroke of tactical genius. These are some clever guys now. They so clever that they got the pagans to change the name of their God to Jesus. That's pretty clever. Go ahead.
Was able to harness the powerful emotions generated by pagan worship. Often, churches were sited where temples had stood before, and many heathen festivals were added to the Christian calendar.
So many heathen festivals were added to the Christian calendar. First one on the list, go ahead.
Easter, for instance, a time of sacrifice and rebirth in the Christian year, takes its name from the Norse goddess Astarte, in whom honor, rites, in whose honor rites were held every spring. She, in turn, was simply a northern version of the Phoenician Earth Mother Astarte.
So you got these spring fertility rites. The Phoenicians had a god that they celebrated during this time. They called her Astarte. The Norse had a goddess that they celebrated called Estra. Go ahead.
Goddess of fertility. Easter eggs continue the age-old tradition in which the egg is the symbol of birth, and cakes which were eaten to mark the festivals of Astarte and Estre were the direct ancestors of our hot cross buns.
So all these nations had their own god during the springtime that they dedicated their fertility rites to. So what happened? Rome came along and changed Estra to Easter, changed Astarte to Easter, kept all the same customs, and gave you Jesus. What do rabbits and eggs have to do with Jesus? Why do you color your eggs? Why do you have chocolate rabbits? What is this Easter bunny? What's up with the Easter basket? I thought this was about the resurrection of Jesus. Apparently it's not. It has something more to do than the resurrection of Jesus. Let's go to, flip over to the next page. And this is something that really shocked me when I found out that this is actually a Christian festival. And it's called Mardi Gras. Believe it or not, it's Christian. Getting drunk and getting naked, having a party, it's Christian. And Sunday Christians participate in this stuff. Read about Mardi Gras. Let's see where it came from. It'll tell you right out the back. Go ahead.
Mardi Gras, a Christian holiday.
Wait a minute. Mardi Gras, a Christian holiday. Is that what that said? Read that again.
Mardi Gras, a Christian holiday.
A Christian holiday. Never in your wildest dreams would you think Mardi Gras, because we all know what Mardi Gras is. We all grown folks here, right? We seen Mardi Gras. We seen the beads and what you need to do to get the beads. But this is a Christian holiday. Go ahead.
And popular cultural phenomenon, Mardi Gras dates back thousands of years to pagan spring and fertility rites.
What? Thousands of years to pagan spring and fertility rites. Not Mardi Gras. Yes, Mardi Gras. Go ahead.
Also known as Carnival, it is celebrated in many countries around the world, mainly those with large Roman Catholic populations.
Not Rome again. Mardi Gras in Rome? Go ahead.
On the day before the religious season of Lent begins, Brazil, Venice, and New Orleans play host to some of the holiday's most famous public festivities, drawing thousands of tourists and revelers every year.
So we got nations that's got some kind of Mardi Gras party. And Mardi Gras happens right before Lent. And what does Lent represent amongst the Catholic Church? Your 40 days of penitence or fasting. So what you do the day before Lent, which is called Fat Tuesday, that was the culmination of Mardi Gras, where you just go buck wild. You get all your sinning out the way because you knew that you wasn't going to be able to do nothing for 40 days. Keep reading.
Origins of Mardi Gras. According to historians, Mardi Gras dates back thousands of years to pagan celebrations of spring and fertility, including the raucous Roman festival of Saturnalia and Lupercalia.
We know what Lupercalia is, right? Valentine's Day. Go ahead.
When Christianity arrived in Rome...
Here we go. When Christianity arrived in Rome, let's see what they did. Go ahead.
Religious leaders decided to incorporate these popular local traditions...
Not wipe them out. Let's incorporate them. Go ahead.
...into the new faith.
The new faith. Let's bring them in. Clean them up a little bit, but bring them in. That's why the beads that they gave away, rosary beads. It was rosary beads back then. They couldn't stop the raucous party. Let's give them some rosary beads because they knew Lent was coming up. Give them some rosary beads, but they still got the beads now. But there's no rosary on them. It's just beads now. Go ahead.
Religious leaders decided to incorporate these popular local traditions into the new faith, an easier task than abolishing them altogether.
So it was easier to blend them in and get rid of them. Go ahead.
As a result, The excess and debauchery of the Mardi Gras season became a prelude to Lent, the 40 days of penance between Ash Wednesday and, along with Christianity, Mardi Gras spread. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it kind of
40 days
out.
of penance between Ash Wednesday and Easter.
Easter Sunday.
Along with Christianity, Mardi Gras spread from Rome to other European countries, including France, Germany, Spain, and England.
Okay, that's good on that. You can read the rest on your own. Now flip over to the next page. Let's read about this Easter. Because Easter is the next biggest thing next to Christmas. But we see that Easter's pagan too. Rome gave it to you. They cleaned it up, changed the name, stamped Jesus on it, and here you got it. Go ahead, Easter.
Easter, which celebrates Jesus Christ's resurrection from the dead, is Christianity's most important holiday. It has been called a movable feast because it doesn't fall on a set date every year, and as most holidays do.
So now Easter is a movable feast. It is a feast in Christianity. I can't find it in this Bible, in Leviticus 23. I can't find Easter in Leviticus 23. So it has to be something that's made up. Skip down to the next paragraph. Go ahead.
The exact origins of this religious feast day, the exact origins of this religious feast day's name are unknown. Some sources claim the word Easter is derived from Estre, a Teutonic goddess of spring and fertility. Other accounts trace Easter to the Latin term Hebdomada alba, or white week, an ancient reference to Easter week and the white clothing donned by people who were baptized during that time. Though a translation error, the term later appeared as Esostarum in Old High German, which eventually became Easter in English. In Spanish, Easter is known as Pascua. In French, Pâques. These words are derived from the Greek and Latin Pascha or Pasch for Passover. Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection occurred after he went to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover, or Pesha in Hebrew, the Jewish festival commemorating the ancient Israelites' exodus from slavery in Egypt. Pascha eventually came to mean Easter.
So they done took the Passover and replaced it with Easter. Now, just because, Catholic Church, real deep Catholics, they do it all. They do the Mardi Gras, they do Lent, and everything that's composed of Lent is what? You got Palm Sunday, you got Ash Wednesday, Holy Thursday, Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and it culminates with Easter. Modern day Christians, they just do Easter. But then you got some who want to be real Christianized, and they may go over there and get you some ashes, like the Catholics do. But real Catholics do all of this. Protestants, they just do Easter, but you still going along with the mother. You still a Roman Catholic, because the apple don't fall too far from the tree. So I don't care if you call yourself a Methodist. If you do Easter, you're a Roman Catholic. Baptist, Easter, Roman Catholic. Sunday worship, Roman Catholic, because they gave you Sunday. The Lord didn't give it to you. Flip over to you can read the rest of it on your own. We ain't going to get into all of it. Y'all know that's enough on Easter to know that it's garbage. But read the next page. Let's look at the stuff that came along with when Jesus resurrected. He brought the bunny and the eggs with him. The Easter bunny. Next page over. Go ahead.
Easter bunny. The Bible makes no mention of a long-eared, short-tailed creature who delivers decorated eggs to well-behaved children on Easter Sunday.
We can stop right there, right? The Bible makes no mention. Then why are you doing it? If it's supposed to be associated with the resurrection of Jesus, why you got chocolate bunnies, chocolate eggs, whatever else that's associated with Easter? But keep reading. We're going to read a little more, though.
Nevertheless, the Easter bunny has become a prominent symbol of Christianity's most important holiday. The exact origins of this mythical mammal are unclear, but rabbits, known to be prolific procreators, are an ancient symbol of fertility and new life.
So that's what it all boils down to. It's all about fertility rights. That's why the rabbit is a symbol of Easter, because rabbits have babies like crazy. Fertility rights. Go ahead.
According to some sources, the Easter Bunny first arrived in America in the 1700s with German immigrants who settled in Pennsylvania and transported their tradition of an egg-laying hare called Osterhase.
So now we see that's a fable because rabbits don't lay eggs. But let's read the Easter egg, though. Read about the egg.
Easter is a religious holiday, but some of its customs, such as Easter eggs, are likely linked to pagan traditions.
No, not Easter. Pagan traditions? It says Easter is a religious holiday, but it's got some paganism in it. What kind of religion is it if it's pagan? Pagan religion. No matter how much Jesus you put on it. If it's got a little bit of paganism in it, it's pagan. I don't care what name it is. Go ahead.
The egg, an ancient symbol of new life, has been associated with pagan festivals celebrating spring. From a Christian perspective, Easter eggs are said to represent Jesus' emergence from the tomb and resurrection.
What Christian is this that associates a boiled egg with Jesus' death and resurrection, or emergence from the tomb? What does an egg have to do with Jesus? Read it again. Keep reading. Decorating eggs. Go ahead.
Decorating eggs for Easter is a tradition that dates back to at least the 13th century, according to some sources.
At least the 13th century, but we know it won't go back way, way, way further than that. Go ahead.
One explanation for this custom is that eggs were formerly a forbidden food during the Lenten season. So people would paint and decorate them to mark an end of the period of penance and fasting, then eat them on Easter as a celebration.
Okay, that's good on that. But let's see what Easter's really about. Let's go to the history book. We're going to go back to the last 2 million years. It's not on the handout. But I'm going to see if I can find it in this book. In the meantime, flip over to Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2. And we're going to pick it up at we'll read about it later. Pick it up at verse 1. Luke 2 and 1. Let's get to Christmas. And we're going to wrap it up.
And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city.
Now, we got history on this guy, Cyrenius, okay? And I didn't bring it with me, but when he made this decree for everybody to be taxed, it was in the fall. It was in the fall season. So much for December 25th. But during this time they were being taxed, let's see who went back to get taxed. Go ahead, verse 4.
And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn.
So during this taxation period, Mary had Jesus. And we know that this was during the fall. Go ahead.
And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid.
So it was shepherds abiding in the field, watching their flocks by night. We know it's the rainy season over there in that region of the country during the winter. So there are no shepherds out there abiding their flocks in December because it's raining. So this couldn't be December 25th when Jesus was born. Go ahead.
And the angel of the Lord, and the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said one to another, Let us now go even unto Bethlehem, and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. And they came with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger.
So who found Mary and Joseph lying in the manger? The shepherds. Why do you see all these, what they call nativity scenes with the wise men? With the baby Jesus, Joseph, Mary, you got the shepherds, Joseph, Mary, baby Jesus. What's up with the wise men? Why are they there? The Bible says only the shepherds found him. Let's see when the wise men came upon Jesus, because the shepherds found him in a manger. Let's go to Matthew chapter 2. Let's see when the wise men caught up with him. So all these, I'm just, stirring it up a little bit to hit you with the final blow about Christmas. I know it's hard. It was hard for me to give it up too. I ain't gonna lie. I tried to dance around it. I'd show up the next day. You gonna buy me something? Don't wrap it up. I tried to dance around it all the time till I finally, the Lord really hit me upside the head and said, look, man, you got to get this thing up. You got to give it up, because it don't have nothing to do with me. First of all, I wasn't born on this day. And if I was born on this day, what do a tree have to do with me? Matthew 2, pick it up at verse 1.
Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him.
Where is he that is born my personal Savior? Don't say that, do it. Salvation is common. Jesus is not the Savior of you. He's the Savior of the whole world. That's what the book says. He is nobody's personal. How you going to belittle God to become just my personal Savior? Keep reading.
When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared.
So Herod had a little sidebar with the wise men. He was like, hey, what time did y'all see this star, man? Let me know what's happening. Because that little answer you gave me was pretty vague. I want to know what's going on. But go ahead.
And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, Go and search diligently for the young child. And when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also.
And we know Herod didn't want to worship. He wanted to kill him. So he told him, look, you go find a child in Bethlehem, and when you find him, come back and let me know. But go ahead, verse 9.
When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house...
And when they came into the manger... Go ahead.
They saw the young child
They
with
saw
Mary.
the baby. The young child. That's when the wise men showed up. He was a young child and he was in a house. So all those nativity scenes, garbage. Go ahead.
With Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh.
So this is where they get the 3 from. You got the 3 gifts. It must have been 3 wise men, but the book don't say 3 wise men. It say wise men. Could have been 2, could have been 3. We just know for a fact it was more than 1. Because more than 1 makes men. Man is singular, men is more than 1. But we know for a fact that it wasn't 3 because the book don't say 3. So the 3 wise men, the nativity scene, baby in a manger, garbage. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10. But before we go to Jeremiah 10, let's look at one of these things on a handout. Now we almost done. And there's still some daylight left. Y'all have made it. Handout now under Christmas. Because this is hard. It was hard for me to give it up. I'm telling y'all, I struggled. But I did it. The Bible says I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You can give up Christmas too. And you can keep the law. Christmas, go ahead.
Christmas is both a sacred religious holiday and a worldwide cultural and commercial phenomenon. For 2 millennia, people around the world have been observing it with traditions and practices that are both religious and secular in nature.
Secular means pagan. For 2,000 years, people have been celebrating this stuff. Go ahead.
Christians celebrate Christmas Day as the anniversary of the birth of Jesus of Nazareth.
So Christmas is what? It's the anniversary, right? Anniversary means that you know exactly he was born that day, so you continue that. Just like they got marriage anniversaries, right? If you've been married 50 years, you know the date you got married, and 50 years from that date, you celebrate something, right? But December 25th is supposedly the anniversary of the birth of Jesus. Go ahead.
A spiritual leader whose teachings form the basis of their religion. Popular customs
now that are associated with Christmas. Go ahead.
Include exchanging gifts, decorating Christmas
trees,
attending church, sharing meals with family and friends, and of course, waiting for Santa Claus to arrive.
Of course. Now this is all of this Christmas stuff that's got to do with Jesus. You exchanging gifts. Where did that come from? The tree. Where did that come from? Attending church. We know where that came from. Having a feast with your family and friends. And of course, waiting for Santa. Go ahead.
December 25th, Christmas Day, has been a federal holiday in the United States since 1870.
So they always hit you with the good stuff. Now let's see where Christmas really came from. Go ahead. Ancient holiday.
An ancient holiday. The middle of winter has long been a time of celebration around the world.
So the middle of winter has always been a celebration around the world. This ain't nothing new. Go ahead.
Centuries before the arrival of the man called Jesus, early Europeans celebrated light and birth in the darkest days of winter. Many people rejoiced during the winter solstice. When the worst of the winter was behind them, and they could look forward to longer days and extended hours of sunlight.
So long before Jesus came on the scene, they always had these winter celebrations, just like they have harvest festivals. Long before they stamped Thanksgiving Day on it, somebody in some other country was always doing something to honor a pagan god during the harvest season. Same thing with Christmas. Somebody was always doing something during the winter solstice to honor their pagan god. Next paragraph, go ahead.
In Scandinavia, the Norse celebrated Yule from December 21st, the winter solstice.
So in Scandinavia, the Norse celebrated Yule. We're going to read about Yule. Go ahead.
Through January. In recognition of the return of the sun, fathers and sons would bring home large logs, which they would set on fire. The people would feast until the log burned out, which could take as many as 12 days. The Norse believed that each spark from the fire represented a new pig or calf that would be born during the coming year.
So this is where you get the Yule log from. Remember, if you don't pay attention on Christmas, when they turn to one of them channels where they had that log burning all day. Never could understand why you showing a picture of a log all day. Right here. They got it from Scandinavia, and we're going to read what that Yule log represents. Next paragraph, go ahead.
The end of December was a perfect time for celebration in most areas of Europe. At that time of year, most cattle were slaughtered so they would not have to be fed during the winter. For many, it was the only time of year when they had a supply of fresh meat. In addition, most wine and beer made during the year was finally fermented and ready for drinking.
Christmas is a big party, and it still is. You get triple the DUIs around this time. Now let's look at Saturnalia, because Saturnalia is part of Christmas as well. We're going to hit a few paragraphs. We're going to hit and miss here a little bit, because I'm getting hot up here myself. Saturnalia, go ahead.
Saturnalia. In Rome.
Rome again. Okay. First we dealt with Scandinavia with the Yule log. Now let's deal with Rome. Go ahead.
Where winters were not as harsh as those in the far north, Saturnalia, a holiday in honor of Saturn, the god of agriculture, was celebrated. Beginning in the week leading up to the winter solstice and continuing for a full month, Saturnalia was a hedonistic time when food and drink were plentiful and the normal Roman social order was turned upside down. For a month, slaves would become masters. Peasants were in command of the city. Businesses and schools were closed so that everyone could join in the fun. Also, around the time of the winter solstice, Romans observed Juvenalia, a feast honoring the children of Rome. In addition, members of the upper class often celebrated the birthday of Mithra.
The birthday of Mithra. Now, when is Mithra's birthday? Go ahead.
The god of the unconquerable sun on December 25th.
So they was doing this long before Jesus came on the scene. So whose birthday is December 25th? Not Jesus. It's Mithra. Go ahead.
It was believed that Mithra, an infant god, was born of a rock. For some Romans, Mithra's birthday was the most sacred day of the year.
Just like today, some Roman Catholics, Mithra's birthday is the most sacred day of the year, but now it ain't Mithra, it's Jesus now. But this is a fable, right? Mithra was a god born from a rock. Please, if that ain't a fable or a falsehood or a lie, I don't know what is. Go ahead.
In the early years of Christianity, Easter was the main holiday.
This is Roman Christianity now. Because we know the God of Israel didn't have no Easter in his feast. Go ahead.
The birth of Jesus was not celebrated. In the 4th century, church officials decided to institute the birth of Jesus as a holiday.
So 300 some odd years later, Roman church officials decide, okay, we're going to celebrate Jesus' birthday on December 25th. Even though we can read that no mention of his day was born, nobody knows when he was born, but all of a sudden, 300 years later, they know exactly that he was born on December 25th. Please, go ahead.
Unfortunately, the Bible does not mention date for his birth, a fact Puritans later pointed out in order to deny the legitimacy of the celebration. Although some evidence suggests that his birth may have occurred in the spring, why would shepherds be herding in the middle of the winter? Pope Julius I chose December 25th.
Pope Julius I. Now, Roman Catholic bishop, he chose it. He gave you December 25th. Go ahead.
It is commonly believed that the church chose this date in an effort to adopt and absorb the traditions of the pagan Saturnalia festival.
Not wipe them out. Let's choose this day to do what? Absorb it, you know. Let's clean it up a little bit. Not wipe it out. Go ahead.
First called the Feast of the Nativity, the custom spread to Egypt by 432 and to England by the end of the 6th century. By the end of the 8th century, the celebration of Christmas had spread all the way to Scandinavia. Today, in the Greek and Russian Orthodox churches, Christmas is celebrated 13 days after the 25th, which is also referred to as the Epiphany or Three Kings Day. This is the day it is believed that the 3 wise men finally found Jesus in the manger. By holding Christmas at the same time as traditional winter solstice festivals.
So they was holding Christmas at the same time as these pagan winter festivals. Go ahead.
Church leaders increased the chances that Christmas would be popularly embraced, but gave up the ability to dictate how it was celebrated.
So they said, look, we can't figure out how to celebrate this. We just going to blend it in and just stamp Jesus on it. That's all they did. They said, Christmas, Jesus, winter solstice, what y'all doing? Well, let's do it. Let's name your God Jesus, and we can all celebrate together. That's all they did. They stamped Jesus on it, because we read Mithra was born on December 25th, not Jesus. Right. Keep reading.
By the Middle Ages, Christianity had, for the most part, replaced pagan religion.
I doubt it. Go ahead.
On Christmas, believers attended church, then celebrated raucously in a drunken, carnival-like atmosphere similar to today's Mardi Gras.
So you can go to Christmas, go to church on Christmas, be all holy and pious and good, and once you get out, party hardy. Drinking, wine, women, and smoking, right? That's what raucous mean, don't it? It ain't nothing good. Just like they do today. Look at them Christmas parties. Same thing. Go ahead.
Each year, a beggar or student would be crowned the Lord of Misrule, and eager celebrants played the part of his subjects.
Okay, that's good on that one. Flip over to the next page. We got a couple more and we out of here. Let's read about Saturnalia. Because Saturnalia is where you got your exchange and your gifts from. Saturnalia, verse 8, top paragraph right there. Go ahead.
Saturnalia. A number of scholars, including secular historian David Stevens from the University of Central Florida and Professor Parker Ducharme from Tulane University, view aspects of the Saturnalia festival as the origins of some latter Christian customs, particularly the practice of giving gifts.
Uh-oh. Saturnalia, right? Honoring the god of Saturn, gift giving. Don't they do that on Christmas? That's where you got it from. The Saturn god. Now they believe your family, they believe these scholars before they believe you, because you don't know what you're talking about. But these two guys, these are scholars. They must know something. They telling you exactly what I told you. It's garbage. Go ahead. Gift giving.
Which was suppressed by the Catholic Church during the Middle Ages due to perceived pagan origins. The Catholic Encyclopedia states that the Church's view on the latter claim by saying that while midwinter pagan feasts such as Saturnalia may have helped influence the eventual choice to fix the dates of Christmas, this does not mean that Christian Christmas traditions find their origins or inspiration there.
And that ain't double talk, I don't know what it is. They use Saturnalia to fix it, but that don't mean the traditions are from paganism. Come on, you use the pagan festival to fix the date, but you didn't outlaw what they was doing on that day. But just because you stamped Jesus on it, that means it's okay. Go ahead.
Though the abundance of analogous midwinter festivals may indefinitely have helped the choice of the December date, the same instinct which set Natalis Invicti at the winter solstice will have sufficed, apart from deliberate adaptations or curious calculation, to set the Christian feast there too.
Okay, that's good on that. One more paragraph. Flip over to the next page. I might cut this short because I can't leave in the middle of the lesson and go to the bathroom. So you see me jumping around up here, don't worry about it. I maintain. Christmas, next, read that paragraph right there.
The second?
Yeah, the second one.
The precise year of Jesus' birth, which some historians have placed between 7 and 2 BC, is unknown.
So the precise year of Jesus' birth is unknown. We know that. If they don't know the year, how can you figure they know the month and the date? Go ahead.
His birth is mentioned in 2 of the 4 canonical Gospels.
So we can read about his birth, but it don't give any mention of a date or a month. We can acknowledge that. But where did this December 25th come from? Go ahead.
By the early to mid 4th century,
300 years later, go ahead.
the Western Christian Church had placed Christmas on December 25th, a date later adopted in the East. The date of Christmas may have initially been chosen to correspond with the day exactly 9 months after early Christians believed Jesus to have been conceived, as well as the date of the southern solstice, i.e., the Roman winter solstice, with a sun connection being possible because Christians consider Jesus to be the Son of Righteousness.
So we said it was a tactical genius step, right? They knew what they was doing. They couldn't kill these pagans. So what do? Incorporate some of the stuff that they have and mingle it together, mix it together, you know, and just give you a garbage cup. Flip over to the next page. Now this is some of the stuff some of these countries be doing during the winter solstice now. This was before the Catholic Church came along, because Christmas is worldwide now. Everybody does Christmas now, but before the Catholic Church stamped Jesus on it, this is some of the stuff that some of these countries was doing. Go to, read that.
Before the scientific revolution, many forms of observances, astronomical, symbolic, or ritualistic, had evolved according to the beliefs of various cultures, many of which are still practiced today. The following is an alphabetical list of observances believed to be directly linked to the winter solstice.
Now, I didn't put all this in there because this is 17 page. You can look this up on your own. But some of the stuff these people doing during the winter solstice was crazy. But Rome came along, stamped Jesus on it, and now it's called Christmas. So this is what they was doing before it became Christmas. Go ahead.
Bewi Festival. The Sami, indigenous people of Finland, Sweden, and Norway, worship Bewi, the sun goddess of fertility and sanity.
The sun goddess of fertility and sanity. I bet they had a god of insanity too, didn't they? Go ahead.
She travels through the sky in a structure made of reindeer bones with her daughter, Bewi Nia, to herald back the greenery on which the reindeer feed. On the winter solstice, her worshippers sacrifice white female animals and thread the meat onto sticks, which they bend into rings and tie with bright ribbons. They also cover their doorposts with butter so that Bewi can eat it and begin her journey once again.
Okay, look at Brumalia. These are the Roman people now. Go ahead.
Influenced by the ancient Greek Linnea festival, Brumalia was an ancient Roman solstice festival honoring Bacchus, generally held for a month and ending December 25th. The festival included drinking and merriment. The name is derived from the Latin word bruma, meaning shortest day.
Okay, that's good on that one. Now let's read the next one. Sol Invictus. This is Mithra right here. Go ahead.
Sol Invictus, the undefeated sun, or more fully, Deus Sol Invictus, the undefeated sun god, was a religious title that allowed several solar deities, including Ela Gabel, an Assyrian sun god, Sol, the god of Emperor Aurelian, and Mithras, a soldier's god of Persian origin, to be worshipped collectively. Emperor Elagabalus, 218 to 222, introduced the festival of the birth of the unconquered sun, or Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, to be celebrated on December 25th. And it reached the height of its popularity under Aurelian, who promoted it as an emperor-wide holiday. With the growing popularity of Christianity, Jesus of Nazareth came to be given much of the recognition previously given to a sun god, thereby including Christ in the tradition.
He wasn't given that recognition. They just changed the name of their god. Rome told him, look, your God gonna be Jesus now, because we run it. Now, you can still do what you do, but just change the name of your God. It's called mingling. Now, let's look at this Yule. We almost done, y'all. We almost done. That's good. Y'all hanging in there. You might get a chance to eat. Well, by the time you By the time we get done, it'll be dark. You can go buy you something to eat. But let's look at Yule. We read about that log, right? That the Scandinavians burned. Let's see what it represented. Go ahead.
Yule or Yuletide, Yuletime, is a winter festival that was initially celebrated by the historical Germanic peoples as a pagan religious festival, though it was later absorbed into and equated with the Christian festivals or Christmas.
It was later absorbed into? Go ahead.
The festival was originally celebrated from late December to early January on a date determined by the lunar Germanic calendar. The festival was placed on December 25th, when the Christian calendar, Julian calendar, was adopted. Scholars have connected the celebration to the wild hunt. Terms with an etymological equivalent to Yule are used in the Nordic countries for the Christian Christmas, with its religious rites, but also for other holidays of the season. Yule is also used to a lesser extent in English-speaking countries to refer to Christmas. Customs such as the Yule log, Yule goat, Yule boar, Yule singing, and others stem from Yule. Germanic neo-paganism has adopted the pre-Christian festival, as have some other non-Christian religions, such as Wicca.
Okay, so we know Wicca is witchcraft. Yule, which is the log, has nothing to do with Jesus. Let's look at this last, the Christmas tree. Ever wonder what a tree got to do with Jesus? Let's see where it came from, how it all got started. Go ahead.
Long before the advent of Christianity.
Long before Christianity now, way before Christianity. Go ahead.
Plants and trees that remained green all year had a special meaning for people in the winter.
So plants that remained green throughout the winter had a special meaning, so special that they worshiped them. Go ahead.
Just as people today decorate their homes during the festive season with pine, spruce, and fir trees, ancient peoples hung evergreen boughs over their doors and windows. In many countries, it was believed that evergreens would keep away witches, ghosts, evil spirits, and illness.
So the little wreath that you hang across your door ain't got nothing to do with Jesus. It was supposed to ward off evil spirits. But they done put the switch on you now. Now you inviting them evil spirits in. Because you got yourself involved in this paganism. Go ahead.
In the northern hemisphere, the shortest day and longest night of the years fall on December 21st or December 22nd, and is called the winter solstice. Many ancient people believed that the sun was a god, and that winter came every year because the sun god had become sick and weak. They celebrated the solstice because it meant that at last the sun god would begin to get well. Evergreen boughs reminded them of all the green plants that would grow again when the sun god was strong and summer would return. The ancient Egyptians worshipped a god called Ra, who had the head of a hawk and wore the sun as a blazing disc in his crown. At the solstice, when Ra began to recover from the illness, the Egyptians filled their homes with green palm rushes, which symbolized for them the triumph of life over death. Early Romans marked the solstice with a feast called the Saturnalia in honor of Saturn, the god of agriculture. The Romans knew that the solstice meant that soon farms and orchards would be green and fruitful. To mark the occasion, they decorated their homes and temples with evergreen boughs.
So you know why you decorate your homes now, during this Christmas time. Right here, Rome, paganism. Ain't got nothing to do with Jesus. Finish it up.
In Northern Europe, the mysterious Druids, the priests of ancient Celts, also decorated their temples with evergreen boughs as a symbol of everlasting life. The fierce Vikings in Scandinavia thought that evergreens were the special plant of the sun god Balder.
Okay, now let's go to Jeremiah 10. We're going to finish it up with the book now. We winding it down now, y'all. Hold tight. You'll be able to eat in a little bit. Jeremiah 10. So we know the tree is pagan. It has nothing to do with Jesus. And the Lord told you this in Jeremiah the 10th chapter. Because we read in history that all these nations had a special meaning for a tree that didn't die during the winter. So special that they worshiped it. Matter of fact, they cut it down, brought it in their house, and decorated it like we do today. But we don't have to cut them down no more. We can just go to the lot where they have them wholesale. Or you can get real fancy and get you a plastic tree with a keep forever. But let's read what the Lord said about this tree worship. Jeremiah 10, pick it up at verse 1. Go ahead.
Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen.
So the Lord said, learn not the way of the heathen. That means don't do what the heathen do. We read what the heathen was doing. They was worshiping trees. The Lord said, don't do it. Go ahead.
And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them.
Now don't be looking at the stars being all fascinated with them. For these other nations are fascinated with them. That's why they worship them. Go ahead.
For the customs of the people are vain.
The customs of the people are vain. Means this for nothing. Bringing a tree in your house and decorating it's all for nothing. I mean, think about it. Really think about it. You throw it away in 2 weeks. Sweep up all the pine needles out your house. Keep reading.
For one cutteth the tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen, with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as a palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good.
Skip down to verse 8.
But they are altogether brutish and foolish. The stock is a doctrine of vanity.
So the customs of the people are vain. Their stock is a doctrine of nothing. It don't mean nothing. But people get real upset. I mean, they will fight you too. They will hate you. We had a sister in this congregation. Her mama slapped her when she said she wasn't going to do Christmas no more. But it's for the kids. You know, it's all for the kids. But you lying to the kids from the get. You lying to them. Ain't no such thing as, we didn't even read about him. I left him out. But we know fat dude with a red suit and flying reindeer. What is that? It's falsehood, a fable. But people want to hear this. We read in the first scripture. They're going to turn their head from the truth. Tell somebody no such thing as Santa Claus. Tell them the tree ain't got nothing to do with them. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear some smooth things, right? Tell me a lie. Skip down to verse, verse 14. Go ahead.
Every man is brutish in his knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image. For his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them.
So his molten image is what? A fable. Falsehood is a fable, right? There ain't no breath in them. Go ahead.
They are vanity and the work of errors. In the time of their visitation they shall perish.
So it is nothing. A tree is nothing. Why bring it in your house? It's nothing. You get the biggest tree on the block, you decorate it, open your window so everybody can see. You take pictures by it, put gifts under a tree. Isaiah 46. And if cars could talk, they would be saying what these animals are saying. Isaiah 46. You see people around, driving around with trees on the top of their cars, right? They did the same thing back then. They didn't have cars, they just had animals. But let's see what these animals are saying. Isaiah 46, pick it up at verse 1.
Bel boweth down, Nebo stoopeth. Their idols were upon their beasts, and upon the cattle. Your carriages were heavy laden. Your carriages were heavy loaden. They are a burden to the weary beast.
They putting all this burden on an animal to carry this idol around. Just like when you strap that tree to the top of your car. If cars could talk to each other, they'd be like, look at this fool. Why he got a tree on top of me? Go ahead.
They stoop, they bow down together. They could not deliver the burden, but themselves are gone into captivity. Hearken unto me, O house of Jacob, and all the remnant of the house of Israel, which are born by me from the belly, which are carried from the womb. And even to your old age I am he, and even to hoar hairs will I carry you. I have made, and I will bear, even I will carry, and I will deliver, and will deliver you. To whom will ye liken me, and make me equal, and compare me, that we may be like? They lavish gold out of the bag, and weigh silver in the balance, and hire a goldsmith, and he maketh it a god. They fall down, yea, they worship. They bear him upon the shoulder, they carry him, and set him in place. And he standeth, from his place shall he not remove. Yea, one shall cry unto him, yet he cannot answer, nor save him out of his trouble.
So you go compare these molten images to the God of Israel. These things that can't talk, hear, or smell, you're going to compare them to this God who can deliver you throughout all your troubles. You're going to bow down to this tree. The tree cannot get you out of debt. Get you all them gift receipts and go get your money back. Because I told a brother at work, after he made his little testimony of all the money that he spent, I said, well, why do it, man? I don't even mess with it. I'm the only one with money in my pocket around this time. Even though I'm broke, even if I had money, I still wouldn't fall into this foolishness. Keep reading.
Remember this, and show yourselves men. Bring it again to mind, O ye transgressors. Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure, calling a ravenous bird from the east, the man that executed my counsel from a far country. Yea, I have spoken it, I will also bring it to pass. I have purposed it, I will also do it. Hearken unto me, ye stout-hearted, that are far from righteousness. I bring near my righteousness, it shall not be afar off, and my salvation shall not tarry. And I will place salvation in Zion for Israel my glory.
Okay, let's go to Isaiah 28. All this good stuff we read, how come we don't hear it in Sunday church? Never heard this stuff in Sunday church. I didn't hear it till I came up out of Sunday church. And if this is true, which I know it is because the word of God is true, then somewhere in the Sunday church, somebody is lying to me. Somebody is lying to me, and let's see who's lying to me. Isaiah 28, and pick it up at verse 7. 28 and 7, go ahead.
But they also have erred through wine, and through strong drink are out of the way. The priests and prophets have erred through strong drink. They are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision. They stumble in judgment. All the tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so that there is no place clean.
So who was leading me astray? The priest and the prophet, or your preacher, your bishop, whatever you want to call him, Reverend XYZ, Reverend Chicken Breast, whatever it is. He is the one that's telling you not to do what the Lord says. And it says he's drunk, but not with wine. We ain't talking literal wine and strong drink here. This is bad doctrine. And we're going to show you what cup you've been drinking out of. Revelation 17. Wine is bad doctrine. And we know where we got all these holidays from. Rome. And what is smack dab in the middle of Rome? Vatican City. And every time Rome conquered a nation, religiously, they gave them their garbage, mingled with their garbage. So you got a garbage can full of other garbage. And it's all pointing to bad doctrine. Christmas came from Rome. Easter came from Rome. Valentine's Day, Rome. Burning the log, Rome. Patrick's Day, Rome. New Year's Day, Rome. Revelation 17. Let's look at it. 17:1. Go ahead.
And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
So the inhabitants of the earth have made drunk with the wine of her fornication. That wine is none other than bad doctrine. Everybody throughout the world is swallowed up in it. That's why they had Christmas around the world. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing some form or fashion of a holiday that Rome gave you. I don't care what it is. You're doing it. Keep reading.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication.
So John saw this woman, and this woman is representing the church. Just like the Lord's church is represented by a woman, this woman is representing the church. But the Lord's church is called Israel. Let's see what this woman is called. Go ahead.
And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
So this woman is called Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. So she is the mother of prostitutes, harlots. That means if she's a mother, that means she got a lot of little harlots running around there. But she's the mother of mothers, mother of harlots. And what do the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church call themselves? The Mother Church. And everybody that came from under them, that broke away from them, those are her little harlots. I don't care what denomination you under. If you go to church on Sunday, your mama is Rome. You keep Easter, your mama's Rome. You keep Christmas, your mama is Rome. You may not have the crucifix on your neck, but you got a cross with no body, Rome. Everything you got came from Rome. Sunday worship come from Rome. They have no bones to let you know that we changed it. They will tell you the Sabbath day has always been Saturday, the 7th day of the week. They will tell you, we changed it. We changed it. They'll tell you, but it goes over people's head like a bullet. Go to verse 6, read that.
And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration.
Okay, skip down to verse 15.
And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues.
So they call her the great whore that sits on many waters, right? This great whore is a great church that sitteth upon many waters, and the waters are people, multitudes, nations, and languages. Every language, every nation, every land that's out there in this world, Catholicism is there. You think you're a Islamic country, Catholicism is there. It's over there, believe me. Now let's go to 1 Corinthians 8, and we got 2 more places. So we all had, we had a little, I dipped in that wine a little bit too. I almost got drunk and passed out, but I came to and became sober. I don't drink out of that cup no more. 1 Corinthians 8, and pick it up at verse 1. 8:1, go ahead.
Now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. And if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing yet as he ought to know. But if any man love God, the same is known of him. As concerning therefore the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice unto idols, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, and there is none other God but one.
But we know an idol is nothing, and we know there's only one God. Go ahead.
For though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there be gods many and lords many.
So, but you know that for though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, and we know that we read about that. We got, along with these holidays we read about, agriculture, they worship animals, plants, crops, trees, and this is under the man's knowledge. You know, man creates his own God. Go ahead.
But to us there is but one God.
But to us there's just but one God. We read about all these holidays, how all they incorporate all these different gods, but we know there's only one God, and that's the God of Israel that we read right out of this book. Go ahead.
The Father, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord Jesus Christ, by whom are all things, and we by him.
And we reread in Ephesians where it says what? One Lord, one faith, one baptism? Just one. It's only one Lord, and there's only one faith. Keep the law. If the Lord tell you not to have no idols and no graven images, that's what the Bible says. The same Bible that they take to church tomorrow says the same thing that says right in this one that I got. But they don't read it. They're too busy thinking about Christmas. 2 Kings. And we got one more place. 2 Kings. Second Kings chapter 17, and we're going to pick it up at 24. Boy, this is a long lesson. Second Kings 17, verse 24, go ahead.
And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cutha, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel.
So this is when the king of Assyria took out the 10 tribes. And when they conquer your land, they move you out and move somebody else in. So he took out the 10 tribes and planted them somewhere else and brought these other people in. Keep reading.
And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there that they feared not the Lord. Therefore the Lord sent lions among them, which slew some of them.
So here's these newfound people that's dwelling in the land. They didn't know the God of Israel, so they didn't fear him. So if you don't know somebody, you ain't going to fear. You ain't going to do what they say. So what did the Lord do? He said, okay, I'm going to fix y'all. I got me some lions here. They're going to come in there and kill y'all. Go ahead.
Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations which thou hast removed and placed in the cities of Samaria know not the manner of the God of the land. Therefore he hath sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the God of the land. Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry thither one of the priests whom ye brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner of the God of the land. Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear God. Howbeit every nation made gods of their own, and put them in houses of the high places. Howbeit every nation made gods of their own, and put them in the houses of the high places, which the Samaritans had made, every nation in their cities wherein they dwelt. And the men of Babylon made Succoth-Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Negral, and the men of Hamath made Ashima.
So this Israelite priest came and this Levite showed them how to serve the Lord. So it says, howbeit every nation made gods of their own and put them in the houses of the high places, which the Samaritans had made. Now they're giving names of these gods, okay? The Babylons had Sukkot, whatever his name is. And the men Cuth, they made Negral. And the men of Hamath made Ashima. Go ahead.
And the Avites made Nibhaz and Tartak, and the Sepharvites burnt their children in fire to Adrimelech and Anemelech, the gods of Sepharvaim. So they feared the Lord and made unto themselves the lowest of them priests of the high places, who sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places. They feared the Lord and served their own gods, after the manner of the nations whom they carried away from thence.
So I guess that little knowledge that the priest gave didn't last too long, because they feared the Lord, but what did they do? They still were serving their own little pagan gods. Just like them elders that were sitting in front of Ezekiel. When the Lord pulled the covers off of them, they was claiming to be all holy, but when he pulled the covers off of them, they had all kind of pagan images in their houses and pictures on their walls, worshiping the sun and everything else. That's doing stuff behind closed doors that you don't think anybody else know, but the Lord know. He know exactly what you're doing. And eventually everything you're doing is going to spill over. And pretty soon everybody going to know. Because whatever you do in secret, the Lord going to bring it out in the open. Go ahead.
Unto this day they do after the former manners. They fear not the Lord, neither do they after their statutes, or after their ordinances, or after the law and commandment which the Lord commanded the children of Jacob, whom he named Israel, with whom the Lord had made a covenant and charged them, saying, Ye shall not fear other gods, nor bow yourselves to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them. But the Lord, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt with great power and a stretched out arm, him shall ye fear, and him shall ye worship, and to him shall ye do sacrifice. And the statutes and the ordinances and the law and the commandment which he wrote for you, ye shall observe to do forevermore, and ye shall not fear other gods. And the covenant that I have made with you, ye shall not forget, neither shall ye fear other gods. But the Lord your God ye shall fear, and he shall deliver you out of the hand of all your enemies. Howbeit, they did not hearken, but they did after their former manner. So these nations feared the Lord and served their graven images, both their children and their children's children, as did their fathers, so do they unto this day.
So they feared the Lord, but they still served them pagan idols. And they taught their children to do it. And their children taught their children to do it. And so on and so on and so on, until somebody that's sitting up in here decided to break that cycle. So who taught you Christmas? Who taught your mama Christmas? Who taught your daddy Christmas? Who taught them Christmas? All the way down, somebody had to break the cycle. And that's why we're sitting up here today to learn about all this stuff is straight up paganism. So the cycle has been broken. And praise the Lord, we got some young first generation Israelites coming on the scene that they're going to never have to know what it's like to bow down to a tree. Now let's go to the last place, Joshua chapter 24. And this will be it. Joshua 24. So after you done heard all this stuff, the choice is yours. You either going to serve the Lord or you're going to serve Satan. And Satan comes under many different names. His name is also that other Jesus. Joshua 24. Joshua 24 and pick it up at verse 20. 24 and 20. Okay, go ahead.
If ye forsake the Lord and serve strange gods, then he will turn and do you hurt and consume you. After that he hath done you good.
So if you forsake the Lord and serve strange gods, the Lord is going to hurt you. I mean, it's what the book says. So much for God loves everybody. Turn your back on him, he'll take you out. Flip over to verse 14. Pick it up there. And this is some good advice from Joshua. Go ahead.
Now therefore, fear the Lord and serve him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord.
So serve the Lord in sincerity and in truth, and put away all them pagan gods, all them holidays we read about. Garbage. Put them away. As hard as it is, put it away. But if it's hard for you to do it, the choice is yours. Verse 15, go ahead.
And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
And I hope you got some understanding in Jesus' name.